Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of race number 12 and the first race in the round of 10 for Season 3 of Monday Night Racing Playoffs. The race is from the iRacing virtual Talladega Superspeedway in Talladega, Alabama, as we get ready for the SimSeat 200. I am your host, Taylor Burris, and joining me is my co-host for tonight, Justin Prince, with our producer, Ryan Bauer, as he's twisting the dials from the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Justin, we are in the wild card section of the playoffs of the round of 10, and Justin, this track will provide a lot of excitement, a lot of heartache, and also a lot of amazing stories that will come out of here at the Talladega Superspeedway.
A lot of pressure for our drivers tonight because you never know when disaster can strike at Talladega Superspeedway. It's a circuit where you need to have the right amount of luck, strategy, as well as skill to dice your way up towards the front of the field when it matters. It's going to be the type of round as well where the pressure is on to make sure you perform not just at a superspeedway, but of course a road course with the next race after as well. In other words, you need to be able to perform, Taylor, if you want to do well in this round.
You certainly have to. One driver, though, who has been doing phenomenal since his entrance into the playoffs, none other than NASCAR Cup Series and Xfinity Series driver Garrett Smithley, who is 2 times a winner so far in the playoffs, winning both at Las Vegas and at the Nashville Superspeedway. Justin, momentum is on his side. Can he keep this up? We see a wild card winner take home the checkered flag here tonight. Talladega is known for many first-time winners and surprising winners, so this is going to be something to keep in mind.
It's absolutely going to be something to keep in mind. When it comes to Smithley and his victories, they came in 2 different ways. One, by being able to dodge trouble on the final lap and positioning himself to be in that situation at Las Vegas. And of course, at Nashville Superspeedway, it was part strategy call and part skill, where he was able to find a lot of pace to close out that race. And as he discussed afterwards, decided to take 2 tires, help loosen up that race car. So, with tonight though, as you mentioned, with how Talladega is, teamwork's going to be very critical if you want to set yourself up for success. And don't be surprised to see a lot of competitors who normally aren't up towards the front in some cases, trying to migrate their way to the front and quickly to see if they can win here at Talladega.
We certainly see a lot of heavy hitters as we zoom in here at Talladega Superspeedway, the largest oval circuit in the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. This 2.66-mile circuit opened in 1969 in Lincoln, Alabama, and has been home to some memorable races throughout its inception in the NASCAR history. Turn banks are about 32 to 33 degrees with a trial at a 16.5, while the back straightaway for the Alabama Gang straightaway is 3 degrees. So it's going to provide a lot of interesting features and test every single driver here tonight. And one driver who will be tested to the limit is a driver who's on the outside looking in. David Shieldhouse joins us. David, you are here at Talladega. You're barely into the playoffs of the round of 7. What is something that you are trying to look at here tonight?
Trying to look at victory lane, TB. That's all I'm trying to look at. I'm going to be looking at the backs of my eyelids pretty soon after this race. I'm exhausted. I literally just got home from Charlotte. I walked in the door about 50 minutes ago. So I'm going to be looking at victory lane, and then we'll see you in a week. How about that?
That certainly is. Let's talk about that. How is that fatigue from the trip that you just had over in Charlotte going to affect you here for tonight's race? Because Talladega is somewhere where you have to be focused.
Well, if I go out there and cause the big one because I fell asleep, I guess that'll give you your answer. I'll be okay. You know, I'll be all right. I'm a little tired. I'm a little sunburned, but I had a hell of a lot of fun. And we'll come out here, do our job, come out and get a win, so I don't have to do anything spectacular next week in a car that I don't even own at a track that I've driven once. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for tonight.
Going to be interesting to say the very least, David. What's your game plan to get yourself to the front?
Survive, JP. It's all about surviving. I look over the list of drivers here. I see some names that we haven't seen for a while. I'm not surprised that they're back for Talladega necessarily, but there's a couple of wild cards, guys who don't have any skin in the game. They don't care about a championship or playoffs or any of that. They just want to go fast at Talladega in a big pack, and so you got to be careful about those sort of things. Survival, you got to be around at the end. I'm pretty sure everybody's going to use their quick repair. We sure did tear up a lot of stuff at Daytona early this year, so I don't see why we wouldn't do that again, but got to try and avoid that, be around at the end. That's the only way you can win these things.
Well, David, we do appreciate your time. Good luck out there. That is David Shieldhouse, driver of the number 20 out there here tonight. He is looking into the playoffs. And Justin, there is a couple of more drivers who we got to point out who have a shot in the playoffs as we take a look at the point standings here as they come up onto your screen. Garrett Smithley, of course, has already won 2 races. He currently holds the point lead as we see the rest of the point standing. Adam Cabot, Justin, is one driver to keep in mind. He's been very consistent since the playoffs began and holding on to that second spot. He is someone to keep an eye on. Who else, though, are you going to be looking at in this playoff for the round of 7?
Definitely looking at Raja Karuv because he's been very strong in the postseason so far. Was a contender for victory at Las Vegas. Struggled a little bit at Nashville Super Speedway with the super late model, but he's someone known to be very aggressive and really work hard at the super speedways such as Talladega. So he's someone I can see up towards the front and trying to battle for the race win tonight. Don't forget as well, Ford Martin has a lot of motivation. Last time Monday Night Racing came to Talladega for competition with the Indy cars in particular, he was in contention for that victory. So he's got some great motivation to try and take home a victory here tonight.
He certainly does, but Justin, we also have to keep an eye on a couple of non-playoff contenders who have made their way here to Talladega here tonight. You have Shane Van Gisbergen, who has won multiple races here for Season 3. He's back, and also he has a defending Talladega race winner when it comes to the NASCAR side of things, James Davison, who, remember the last time we ran the eNASCAR Pro Invitationals on iRacing was on Fox. He won at Talladega with the Cup cars. The truck is going to be a little more different to a degree, but still provide that excitement.
I can see him migrating towards the front. Absolutely see someone as well, such as Ryan Vargas, who is willing to make some moves and slice and dice, make his way to the front as well. It's going to be a fun night of action to see which drivers can take home the checkered flag.
It certainly is. Well, with that, we are going to take a commercial break. But when we come back, James Pike and Kenneth Bueno, Justin Prince will be on pit road, and we have very special guests joining us here tonight. Of course, from Fox Sports, we have Adam Alexander, and from the Motor Racing Network, Dave Moody. Well, we'll be right back from Monday Night Racing, presented by Tufco Flooring.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
There's a place where fire and flavor are celebrated, where grilling traditions and new techniques are perfected. Here in Big Green Egg Country, you can grill it, roast it, smoke it, or bake it. It's the most versatile grill you'll ever own. Simple to light, easy to use, comes with a free lifetime warranty. Have it delivered to your door by a certified dealer in your community and start enjoying the ultimate cooking experience. Shop online for home delivery at biggreenegg.com. That's biggreenegg.com.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of the 12th race in Season 3 of Monday Night Racing in the round of 10 of the Monday Night Racing playoffs, the Sim Seats 200. Live tonight from iRacing's virtual Talladega Superspeedway in Talladega, Alabama. James Pike here alongside a very special cast of characters to bring you tonight's race. We've got Adam Alexander and Dave Moody in the house, along with Ryan Bauer, our producer for the evening, and cameras, as always, provided by
All right, so I think we're having some issues with James Mike, so we'll pick it up here. Thanks so much. With Dave Moody, I'm Adam Alexander. And Dave, this is great for you and I to have an opportunity to come out on Monday Night Racing. I think 2021 marks the 20th anniversary of the first time you and I ever worked together at Motor Racing Network, but our first time on Monday Night Racing. And we get to do it in the playoffs at Talladega Superspeedway. This is going to be fun.
And now you're a big television superstar, and I'm still at the Motor Racing Network. One of us has made progress, one of them hasn't. But yeah, there's no better place to go racing than Talladega. What did our dear and departed friend Barney Hall say? They don't race them anywhere in the world like they do here at Talladega, and I think it's the same with sim racing as it is in the real world.
You know, since I moved to Fox Sports, I've had the opportunity to work a lot of races with America's crew chief, Larry McReynolds. And the one thing he always says when we go to Talladega, if you're in it, you can win it. And that's the case tonight. But in particular, for 10 drivers trying to run down this championship, winning tonight would be huge. That would be their automatic ticket into the round of 7. As you look now at the layout of this track, one of the most unique in all of NASCAR.
Well, it certainly is. There's no question about it. And one of the things that makes it really different and really special is that the start-finish line is nowhere near where it should be. You would think that it would be right in the center of that front stretch dogleg. Instead, it's another 100, 150, 200 yards further down toward turn number 1. You wouldn't think it would make all that much difference, but so many times over the years, the driver that would have won had the start-finish line been dead center ends up 3rd or 4th or 5th by the time they get down there to turn 1 in the actual start-finish.
75 laps tonight, 200 miles in the Sim Seats 200. How do you manage this if you're a driver? Because as you see here, you get one quick repair. And so that means, I mean, you get one shot to get in the big one and come back and be a part of the equation. You have to balance the patience with some aggression.
I don't think you can look at that one reset as a get-out-of-jail-free card, because it is so easy to get in trouble at Talladega that you can get swept up in something. The best way to get swept up in something is to try not to get swept up in something. You've got to go out there and race your race, but you got to keep your head on straight. You got to be cautious. You got to be conscious of who's around you and what they're doing. And just like drivers have said to us for years, Adam, sometimes you just got to go for that with that sixth sense where you say, I'm not liking the feel of this crowd right now. I'm going to back out.
Every time I've been here, I've always race day in Talladega, Alabama. Let's go trackside for pre-race ceremonies. And it's just about time to get the command. Before we do that, we get tonight's invocation. Here's Lonnie Klaus from MRO.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity that we have to participate in this event today. We thank you for the privilege to live in the United States of America, one nation under God, indivisible with liberty and justice for all. We commit this event to you, and may we please you. We'll give you the thanks. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
And giving tonight's command to fire engines, the Grand Marshal, the voice of the Tennessee Titans, Mike Keith.
We're ready to get it underway, and here is your command. I'm thrilled to do this. Gentlemen, start your engines.
Tonight, even though he's not a New England Patriot or an Indianapolis Colt, okay, we'll have
not everyone can be. It's okay.
That's right. Here's the starting lineup. How about this? Case Collenbach joins us tonight. He starts on the pole on the front row with Raj Karut. Here's a driver that has made a lot of splashes throughout his career on Monday Night Racing. And there's your old buddy in row 3, Ron Capps, Dave.
Ron Capps is, he's a piece of work. Normal people don't drive top fuel funny cars, first and foremost, but Capps is even a little bit off compared to most top fuel funny car drivers. I love the guy.
A couple of playoff drivers here. You got David Schildhouse and also Brad Perez, who won the All-Star race, won at Road America earlier this season. He's a driver to watch tonight as we get set to go. James Bickford from the ARCA Racing Series, someone that could be a player, no doubt about that.
The more experience you have here at Talladega, the better off you're going to be. The more comfortable, the more familiar you are with all the different things that can happen, how to make them happen when you want them to, how to keep them from happening when you don't.
Anthony Alfredo, a part of the equation. We know that he's quite capable.
AKA Fast Pasta, the Pasta Mafia, watching tonight and rooting him on all the way.
Matt Stallneck was there. You also saw on the page DJ Cummings, a part of the race tonight. He's a playoff driver. He's won a couple of times, including an IndyCar race on Monday Night Racing right here at the virtual Talladega Superspeedway. Ryan Vargas, always fun to watch in the Xfinity Series, driving the 23 tonight.
You know he'll get everything there is to get out of that race car. I've never seen Ryan Vargas behind the wheel where I didn't feel like he was operating at about 5% more than the car was capable of. Sometimes it bites him, sometimes he makes it work.
Devin Henry driving the 77. He's a young journalist from out in Arizona. We mentioned James Bickford's name. Mike Clay, someone to watch tonight in that 88 car. We talked about Brad Perez. And the rest of the starting lineup in the Sim Seats 200 at Talladega. And there might have been a slight hiccup in our lineup here because I saw a couple of names pop up more than once. That's a little bit of foreshadowing of what we'll see in this race tonight, Dave.
Yeah, that's exactly right, because the graphic probably indicates what we'll see under green. They'll be at the front 1 minute, they'll be in the back the next minute, a couple of laps later they'll be back to the front again. It's you never give up on a lap at Talladega.
Give me a favorite memory or two of racing at Talladega. I mean, you said it earlier. This place embodies what NASCAR and motorsports is all about. What are some of your favorite moments there?
Well, I don't know about favorite, but most memorable would have to be the infamous Talladega big ones. And there have been some times over the years from my perch up there at the exit of turn number 2 where they have broken out right in front of me. All you see is a gigantic cloud of smoke, and every once in a while you'll see a hood go flying through the air in that direction, a fender go flying through the air in another direction, and when it's really big and when it's really on, you'll see an entire car or truck go flying through the air in another direction.
It's the opening race in the round of 10, Monday Night Racing, and we appreciate you being with us on Podium Esports. The front row is Dave Schildhouse. He's on the inside. Outside of him, James Davison. We're ready to roll at Talladega Superspeedway. The green flag is out, and they will rush up the speed 2 by 2 as they head to turn 1.
Up through the gearbox, it'll take them about halfway to turn number 2 to reach full song. And part of the way you can get in trouble is to mess up that shifting sequence, because if the guy in front of you is a little slow grabbing a gear, things can happen very badly in a very big hurry.
Already we got one dropping below that double yellow line. We also have them stacking up 3 wide now. They're not wasting any time mixing it up in the pack.
Why why wait? It's Talladega, 3 wide, 4 wide. It's kind of the thing to do, and they've got it stacked up pretty good right now in the early going.
I love watching these, in this case, trucks, but cars, trucks, whatever it may be, when you're racing at Talladega and the start, because that provides such a great opportunity to go out and make something happen, or conversely to put yourself in a bad position and go in the wrong direction.
Racing trucks at Talladega is really special to begin with. They punch a huge hole in the air. You know, these trucks are about as aerodynamic as an outhouse. So, downforce and all of that, it's completely different in the truck series than it is with Xfinity or Cup.
Dave Schildhouse leading this thing, and he's getting a push down in that inside lane. From that green truck, that's Garrett Smithley. Smithley undefeated in the playoffs so far here in Season 3, winning the first 2 races out of the gates at Las Vegas and Nashville Super Speedway. How long can these guys hang on 3 wide, Dave?
Well, technically they can do it all day, but in reality, it could go wrong at any moment, and that's where you weigh the risk versus reward. They were 3 wide, 4 wide on the opening lap. They've calmed down a little bit here and gotten it back to the 2x2, which more than anything else, I think that's just in the interest of survival here in the early laps.
And there's the start-finish line, and something, Dave, you talked about before we went green here tonight, is where that start-finish line is situated in comparison to where you normally see it at other racetracks. That is a mental note to make as we reach the latter stages. And the same for these drivers as now we see a run in that outside lane. James Davison is there, and he's getting help from a playoff guy. That's Matt Stallneck pushing him along in the 41.
Garrett Smithley second on the inside there, giving a little bit of a bump from behind to David Schildhouse. And that tiny little bump, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but from inside the truck, you can hear the RPMs jump by about 1,500 to 2,000 RPM just from that tiny little jump, and that translates to speed.
We mentioned the name Garrett Smithley, and I think iRacing has been so great since we hit COVID 18 months ago, because it really shined a light on how great racing in the virtual world is. Garrett Smithley, a guy that you and I are used to running into in the garage on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, but running in equipment that very rarely gave him an opportunity to compete for wins. But guys like him and Timmy Hill, who's very much cut from the same mold when you look at where they stack up in the NASCAR world, great at iRacing, and when they race virtually, they are always a player.
Always a factor for the win, no question about that. And you're right, for Garrett Smithley, most of the teams that he's run for in his still relatively young NASCAR career, a top 15 day is like winning the Daytona 500. They come into the racetrack thinking top 20 if we can have a really good day. They set their expectations realistically. But here in iRacing, Garrett Smithley not only is capable of winning, he shows up expecting to win.
You mentioned Matt Stallneck. He had taken the lead, and he has it now down low in that bottom lane. He got pushed from behind by DJ Cummings in the 10. That's another driver going for the championship. He has advanced to the round of 10 and been very, very successful. We mentioned earlier on that he won an IndyCar race here at Talladega Super Speedway. You also have the 20 down there of Dave Schildhouse. These playoff drivers methodically working their way to the front, trying to stay in front of the hornet's nest. The last thing they want is to be caught up in the big one when you're running for a championship.
The fewer guys you have in front of you, the fewer chances you have for one of them to make a mistake that involves you. What I like about some of these playoff guys early, and if you watch what they're doing here in the early laps, so often at a track like Talladega, it's not the move you make, it's the move that you don't make. And sometimes these drivers, some of the less experienced drivers, are bouncing around. They're in a different groove in every corner, and it's tough to gain the trust of the people racing around you that way. And it also just puts you in jeopardy more often than not. The really smart guys and the guys that are in this racing for a championship have pretty much found themselves a line and stuck with it so far.
You know what I love about racing at a place like Daytona or Talladega on a Monday night in the virtual world is Monday night racing has attracted so many drivers from various parts of the motorsports world. And one of those areas is from the spotter stand. And it's not rare to see TJ Majors competing, one of the best spotters when it comes to super speedway racing. it's like the shoe's on the other foot. Now he has to go out and get behind the wheel. Changes the game a little bit.
It is a little harder from behind the wheel. There's no question about that. Although, quite honestly, you know, what we do in calling the action from our various positions around the racetrack and what those spotters do, not a lot different. I have a lot of respect for those spotters. It's very difficult to translate everything they see and all the information that they're expected to hand on down to their driver. It's hard to do that in real time, and they find a way. Sometimes I wonder how they keep up, and they're doing it pretty well 3 wide right now. I mean, if you're a spotter, how do you describe what we're seeing right now other than a gigantic big mess?
One guy that's really enjoying this mess, though, Anthony Alfredo. He very quietly has worked his way to the front. That's that white and black truck, and we got trouble as we come through the tri-oval, and it's many of those drivers running up front. It appears everybody hangs on. We stay green. That was quite the save there, Dave.
That is an amazing save because that was a 22 truck pileup just waiting to happen. They started it, but they didn't quite finish it. Everybody is pointed in the right direction, and that's nothing short of a minor miracle right now.
Gary Sexton, one of those up there in the 13. He's hanging tough behind David Schildhouse. You still have Anthony Alfredo, a part of the mix down low. And one name we have not said, Shane Van Gisbergen. He's won 4 times this year, not a part of the championship equation, but when he comes to play. And there you see him in that 97 truck providing big-time drafting help for the 38 of Anthony Alfredo.
Now let's see if that close call a lap ago calms people down a little bit and lets them take a lap or two to maybe get their heart rate back down to normal. If I had to guess, I'd say probably not, but we'll see what happens.
It seems that drivers always talk a good game prior to the race at a place like Talladega. But the reality is when that helmet goes on, the engine fires, you get through the pace laps, and once you hit turns 3 and 4 and you've hit full speed, everything changes and you just can't hold yourself back.
You don't generally get a lot of beating and banging, at least intentionally, at a track like Talladega because it's just too fast. But Adam, you've talked to drivers like I have for many, many years, particularly at places like Martinsville, where you talk to them before the race and they say the key is to keep control of your emotions. You can't get mad. You have to know somebody's going to run into you, somebody's going to root you, somebody's going to push you. You have to let it go. And then on lap 3, the guy that was counseling to let it go is out there trying to kill somebody because they rubbed his door on lap 7. It's just, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it in the heat of battle.
The one thing we've seen tonight, though, and this is a bit of the information and intel that these drivers will take in and use later in the race. So many times you'll see someone drop to the back to avoid the big one. We have already seen a number of drivers come from the rear to the front. That indicates to me that you can pass and you can make moves in the draft to gain positions when needed. So perhaps dropping back in the pack and laying low to avoid the big one is not a bad strategy tonight because, as we've seen and I said, you can work your way to the front of the field and be a part of the equation late. It's Anthony Alfredo leading in that bottom lane. Pushing him is David Schildhouse in the 20, and outside is Gary Sexton trying to get a push.
I'm really impressed with the 20 truck that has been on the bottom of the racetrack, has just held his spot. He's gone backward a little bit, he's gone forward a little bit, but he's not jumping around up and down, changing lanes in every corner. So it's been a good run so far. So far, so good in the comm department. I hate to say it, I don't want to jinx anybody. We'll have a big one break out here, but so far, so good. They've been pretty calm and orderly.
No doubt about that. And I think, you know, the other thing we need to bring up, and if you watch Monday Night Racing on a regular basis, you know this, there is no stage break. So, you know, you look at 11 of 75, this is the ultimate mental grind for these drivers. Unless we get a caution on track, they are going to be running in green flag conditions, and I guess the only time they would get a break is when they make a pit stop under green. But as you know, that is very, very stressful at a place like Talladega.
Yeah, the pit stops may be almost as difficult as the actual green flag racing because, you know, just regulating your speed, the difficulty of going from, 205 miles an hour down to 55 miles an hour on pit road. It feels like you can get out and walk at those speeds. 55 miles an hour is still pretty quick, though, but the transition is difficult.
Hey, and I got to update something here, and I apologize, but we got to give credit where credit is due. We've been selling Anthony Alfredo in the 38. We just gotten word. Jeff Green driving the 38. Now, we had him listed in the 8 truck. But that's him, as we understand it, leading this thing in the 38. Of course, Jeff, an Xfinity Series champion from Owensboro, Kentucky, and showing off his driving ability here tonight.
One of the legends of the sport, no doubt about it. There is nothing that's going to happen tonight at Talladega that he hasn't seen 100 times before. He knows exactly where he wants to be. He knows exactly how to get there. And now we've got two 38s running side by side in the top 5 coming off the turn.
There's Anthony Alfredo in the red, white, and blue 38. The white and black 38 is Jeff Green. Glad we got that corrected. Van Gisbergen is out front in that bottom lane of the 97. And you got a playoff driver outside of him and David Schildhaus. And outside of the fact that we had a couple of laps 3 wide, we've been at least 2 wide since the green flag went in the air. This racing has been incredible.
Nobody's showing any willingness or any interest in getting single file and just riding right now. Every once in a while, you'll see a truck pull up to the outside like you're seeing there, go 3 wide. And that's usually when they've just decided they don't like where they're at the moment, and they're going to give a few spots up and get in a safer place.
Now, as you watch the running order top of the screen, the drivers that are highlighted in red, Robbie Lyons one up there now. He is, these are playoff guys, right? And so they are the ones that are trying to advance. And what's interesting to me is some of them are hanging in the back. We've got a couple of them up there in the top 10. Some of those guys hanging deep in the field. I also noticed that Brad Perez is doing that. They are playing that game. They don't want to be in the big one. We don't know for sure that this is by design, but I think they're doing a nice job of laying low, trying to keep themselves in the game.
A lot of things happen out there just as a matter of circumstance. Somebody will make a move. That forces you to make a move, or it leaves you caught up in the middle or shoved out to the outside all by yourself. If you're on a lane by yourself at Talladega, nothing good is going to happen. David Schildhaus right there almost got left alone. He made a nice move to come down across the nose of the truck behind him there and keep himself from being hung out to dry in the middle.
Now we're looking at him here 3 wide, and sometimes we will see 4 and 5 wide at Talladega. It's not necessarily recommended, but one of the great traits of this racetrack is just how big and wide it is.
Well, the numbers game is important here at Talladega. It's all about the mathematics, Adam. If you're in a lane that only has 2 or 3 trucks, you're probably not going to make a lot of forward progress. If you're in a lane that has 12 or 13 trucks, you've probably got a good head of steam going. And if you do the math right now, there are 3 different lines that are trying to figure out who's going to have the most soldiers marching. And the bottom lane right now, the quickest way around, but the numbers are beginning to organize a bit on the outside.
Van Gisbergen is continuing to lead. Alfredo is second. You got Schildhaus up there in third. He and Davison sharing those top 2 positions. Milello has been up front quite a bit tonight. Jeff Green has fallen back to 6th. Raj Caruth, one of our playoff contenders, is 7th. And Devin Henry rounds out the top 8 right now. Caps and Clay also in the top 10. Let's get a word from Pit Road.
One of the drivers to keep an eye on in this situation, Raja Caruth, talked to him before tonight's race where he felt like he didn't feel any pressure going to Talladega, knowing it's one of those tracks where he can race the track and your competitors. He was pumped up. He feels like he has a good chance to go all the way with the track and car combinations in Monday Night Racing. But the main thing he noted is that he didn't expect to have any friends, but he feels he understands the draft physics that iRacing has, so feels confident that if he has to go solo, he can do so for tonight. He's been able to shuffle around on his own much of this race.
He's got a pair of wins on Monday Night Racing in his career. Does Raj Caruth, including earlier this year, I believe, Trucks Atlanta, also won an Xfinity Series race at Chicagoland Speedway. Good young driver out of Washington, D.C., does an outstanding job on social media. When he won, I think it was the Truck Series race in Atlanta earlier this year, we interviewed him afterwards. I had an opportunity to be a part of that broadcast. Great young man, carries himself so well, and he is really starting to build his brand, not just on track for real, but doing it on Monday Night Racing.
He understands everything there is to understand about what it takes to make it at the highest levels of NASCAR. Talent behind the wheel, absolutely. You got to be fast on Sunday afternoon if you're going to make it in the NASCAR Cup Series. But you've also got to be comfortable in front of the cameras and the microphones. You got to be able to represent your team and your sponsors well. Raj Raj Caruth has got all of those things. I'll tell you something else. There we go.
There he goes. Just as we speak about it, Raj Caruth goes spinning. We've got our first caution tonight. It comes out at lap 18 of 75 in the Sim Seats 200 at Talladega.
And there's Raj gathering himself up and getting back underway. We should have known better than to say nice things about him. It always goes away when they're talking about you. Let's see if we can spot what happened here. A little bit of drafting help from behind coming off the corner. And yeah, a little hook in the right rear corner. And after that, he's just along for the ride.
Now, the 97 there, Shane Van Gisbergen, was able to stay clean after the contact. And I think Caruth was as well. As we look at this replay, and here's where he's going to get hooked in that right rear. We are fortunate there weren't a lot more trucks involved. And you do get one reset, but Caruth there keeping it clean can save that reset. And as we've talked about, you can come from the back to the front. I think he's going to be okay here, Dave.
You don't want to burn that reset in the first quarter of the race, that's for sure. Shane Van Gisbergen also did a pretty good job keeping that car off the inside wall as he just kind of got punted out of the pack as well. He's the 2016 Australian Supercars champion out of Auckland, New Zealand. Not exactly his cup of tea that he's got a lot of experience at racing at a place like Talladega.
But there was a period earlier this season where he won 4 races out of 6 events. So he's someone who's really gotten good at the iRacing game, and he's proved it on Monday nights. Your race leader here is David Schildhouse. He's one of those eligible for the championship. You know, he's got a few dings on his race truck. So does Anthony Alfredo, who is second. And if pit road opens here, I would say a lot of these guys are going to come down and get service under caution, and it looks like they will. And you would much rather pit under yellow than under green at Talladega.
You can stay on the lead lap after pitting under green at Talladega. But the problem is when you come back off pit road and you're all by yourself, that pack will hunt you down in a big hurry, and they will just leave you. They'll come by, it looks like 30 miles an hour quicker than a single truck by itself.
Well, I think the other thing is, Dave, is the communication with the other competitors that I'm coming. You got to get down that bottom lane, right? So you're free and clear when you make your entrance to pit road. And then you're going from close to 200 miles per hour. You got to get it woe down, make sure you're at pit road speed and all those things, in addition to what you talked about, and that is having a drafting partner when you exit. It looked like James Davison was the first off pit road in that 15, and then it was Anthony Alfredo. Not sure if anyone stayed out, but we'll continue to keep an eye on timing and scoring. We're under caution for the first time tonight. Raj Caruth went for a spin. He kept it off the wall, and he'll stay in the game. 20 laps complete in the Sim Seats 200 at virtual Talladega.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Maconi Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flags Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Maconi Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Maconi Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MaconiSetupShop.com and learn why Maconi Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Maconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
So great to have you with us, Podium Esports, bringing you race 1 in the round of 10 for Monday Night Racing season number 3 with Dave Moody from the Motor Racing Network. I'm Adam Alexander with NASCAR on Fox, and you heard James Pike off the top. Unfortunately, we had some technical issues, but James, not just a great broadcaster, he's a wonderful engineer as well, and he's back with us now. James, good to have you.
I by no means am any math or science major, but it took about all of my math and science abilities to make sure that we were A-OK. But what I've noticed here, just watching the first 20 laps or so, lots of aggressive blocking from the front, which you can do in these trucks. I think a little bit more so than the Cup cars or the Xfinity cars. But I've seen so many people just drop the elevator and go from 3 wide all the way down to the bottom on corner entry into 3 in particular. I wonder how long you're going to be able to get away with that before we end up with some bigger wrecks as we get towards the end of the 75 lap SimSeats 200.
The answer to that question is very simple. You can get away with it until the time that you don't get away with it. And there's no way to know when that time is coming. You can make the same move every lap for 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 laps. And unfortunately, on the 11th lap, it doesn't work out, and you end up going for a long ride.
I think across the board, this all played out pretty well for these guys. We knew they were going to have to make a pit stop. They get a caution, as we said. They get to do it under yellow as opposed to having to execute that under green. We're hopeful that Raj Karuth and his truck didn't have any damage outside of the track position he loses by spinning, and he'll be able to return to the front of the pack before it's all said and done. Green once again at Talladega. James Davison jumps to the top spot. He won the battle off pit road a second ago.
Had a good run off pit road and got a good jump at the drop of the green flag as well. Anthony Alfredo will put himself into second, and a major lane change. Oh, that's not going to work out well at all. Again, they managed to save it, but the front 2 are headed for the back 2 right now.
Well, and that's exactly what James just talked about. He said blocking has been a huge part of the equation tonight, and that's what we saw there from James Davison. Alfredo makes the move. The door didn't completely open. Davison tries to slam it shut, and they both go for a ride. And the new leader in that 50 is Gabe Wood, and outside of him, Ryan Vargas spending some time at the front in the 23.
Good side-by-side battle, and looking to make it 3 wide now up the middle. Here comes Jeff Green. Saw himself a little bit of daylight. Now the question is, does he have enough drafting help? Looks like a lot of people like Jeff Green's credentials, and who wouldn't here at Talladega? He's got some drafting help, and the outside lane now gets left all alone.
And don't look now, but here comes Josh Slate in the 1. He was pretty good in practice earlier today, and just behind him, Dave Schildhouse, who probably has led more laps than anybody tonight. Didn't have the pit stop he wanted, but he's one of those playoff contenders that finds himself very much in contention for a victory here tonight. You saw the numbers pop on Jeff Green. I know he announced his retirement. I think we put quotes around it when we said he retired, because he's still racing, whether he's at the track on the weekend or doing this on a Monday night.
Yeah, I don't know if he counted this in the retirement announcement. I think he meant that he's not going to actual racetracks to drive actual race cars and trucks anymore. I think he will tell you that this doesn't count.
Can you believe it's been 21 years ago that he won that Xfinity Series championship?
Jeff Green was the man that year. I mean, he was just hard to guard. It didn't matter where we raced. Big tracks, little tracks, in the middle tracks. Jeff Green was tough to beat that whole year.
And that Green name has been around NASCAR a long time. You think about his brother David, who is a champion in the Xfinity Series and is now working for NASCAR. Brother Mark raced in the Xfinity Series for a number of years. You see him around tracks working on the technical side. Now Tyler Green, Mark's son, is a spotter at all levels of NASCAR. So the Green family has been a huge contributor to the NASCAR world for many, many years and multiple generations.
New player trying to bust his way into the top 5 or 6 right now. Third row back on the outside. That's Ron Capps. And Adam, I've got to tell you, that may be the best-looking truck that I have ever seen on the racetrack.
The paint scheme is unbelievable.
Gorgeous.
Who is that on the hood?
I have no idea, but that's a good-looking. I think Cap should talk to the Don about this. I think Don Schumacher should have that paint scheme on the funny car.
He's an NHRA funny car champion, and tonight putting the Godfather, Dave Moody, on the hood. and you got every portion of that truck.
Well, for the money I paid, I should have it. I didn't pay a dime. Let's be clear about that. Listen, I've known Caps for a long, long time. He's a good friend, and I think he's just, pushing my buttons a little bit on a Monday night.
And he's, that's my understanding, if things play out right, he'll be our in-race reporter. We might get a chance to talk to him if we get a caution later on. And look at him. He was trying to get a little drafting help in that outside lane. And as they scatter, we might get a caution here. Every once in a while, we'll get a single truck spin that will not bring out the caution. But we had contact there, so we get our second yellow of the night, and one of those involved Gary Sexton, who was leading this thing earlier.
Not long ago, and that's how quickly it can go awry here at Talladega Superspeedway. Let's see if we can see what happens. You can see Caps kind of flares out 3 wide to the outside. May have gotten a little bump to send him up there. And after that, it's just a question of everybody trying to find a lane. And back there, just outside the top 10, a couple of guys went for the same piece of real estate.
James Davis in one of those involved, and I want you to watch in the outside lane, the 6 of Raj Caruth, who was involved in our last caution, making his way back to the front in that outside lane, and he was able to get in front of the accident here. He'll restart inside the top 10, maybe the top 5, depending on where he was when that caution came out.
He's done a tremendous job of racing his way back into contention. As a matter of fact, when the caution came out, I think he was probably at or very near the top 5. Not bad for a guy that did the slide for life just a handful of laps ago.
And I'm going to assume that he did not have to use his quick repair when he spun and helped bring out our first caution of the night. And so with that, you would think he's up there basically on a level playing field with everyone else, which would put him in a great position later in this race.
Well, if he did use it, he'll wish he hadn't at this juncture. But if he did use it, it's paid off because he is back up there in contention for the win. I'll tell you, of all the guys we've seen have good runs here in the early going, I still like the looks of David Schildhaus, who has been very smooth, very calm, very methodical. But in terms of sheer speed, Raj Caruth is as good as anybody out there.
Well, here you see Schildhaus, and I heard him talking on the pre-race show about how he just got home. And he was tired and didn't know if he was going to be able to keep his eyes open during this race. But he's been very, very competitive. And I didn't know if they would stop here because they were on pit road 10 laps ago. I think I'm right in saying everybody got 3 sets of tires. But once again, we're going to see these drivers pit at lap 27 of 75. They're going to make stops. This could be fuel only, but some may elect to take on tires. Justin, what do you think here?
These drivers now making their way to their pit boxes. And a majority of these competitors talked to me before tonight's race where the play for them, especially within the playoffs, is to try and wait for things to play out. A couple drivers taking fuel only on the race on pit road. A majority of the drivers electing not to use their fast repairs.
And I think that's one thing, Dave, and that's what also led me to believe that Raj probably didn't use his quick repair earlier. One, it didn't appear that he hit much and didn't have any damage. The other thing is, you want to save them and manage them. And James, this is something you can comment on. You've seen it, especially at a place like Daytona or Talladega. When you know you've got one, you want to use it wisely.
It's one of the interesting strategy pieces that we talk about weekly on Monday Night Racing, and it doesn't necessarily matter whether or not it's Daytona or Talladega or anywhere. It's a case of whether or not it's worth it to use your fast repair now, or whether or not it's better to just ride around in the back and save it and wait until maybe almost too late, you would think. I genuinely think we can end up with a situation, especially since it is the trucks at Talladega, where you could see someone use that fast repair within maybe 5 laps to go, and might end up being okay just because we know it's going to get chaotic at the very end of things. But reminds you that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing, as always, is brought to you by our wonderful friends at SimSeats. Since 2009, SimSeats has been designing and fabricating high-quality driving simulators, including motion systems, custom fabricated parts, and complete turnkey iRacing packages, all made in the United States of America. Their customer base includes all kinds of drivers, from amateurs to professionals, and their passion for racing drives them to build better sim racing equipment. Don't limit your track time to the weekend. Visit www.sim-seats.com for more information. And I do believe that in the Fox Sports studios, I think they are SimSeats rigs that are used, Adam, here. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure it's SimSeats that powers all the rigs you see on the Fox broadcast.
Well, no, I didn't get the memo on that, James, so I don't know. I should know since this is kind of a home game for me. But you know what? Since they're sponsoring tonight's race, let's just go with it, right? I mean, absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Yeah. I didn't get the official word. I'm only on certain email lists. You know, they know my bandwidth is limited here in the Fox building.
You're a busy man. It makes sense. That's fair. Don't want to bog you down with all the information.
Hey, so your thoughts here on the drivers that took fuel only, James, as we talk strategy and saving a set of tires. We're probably looking at least 2 more stops in this race. Would you guess that's accurate?
I would think so. I think the bigger question is, if you're saving fuel now, do you think you're going to get enough cautions to where you can stretch it and make something of it? I think at this point in the race, it's hard to tell, and I don't really know if there are any obvious strategy plays that you can go with since it's so early on, and we have the potential for so many more yellows. I think we probably will get a lot more yellows. So I think if anything, if you're saving fuel, it might be more of a track position thing. I wonder if it might be an attempt to stay out of the madness, stay out of the wrecks, and potentially save the faster pair like we talked about just a few moments ago. If I'm up front and I didn't bother with tires or fuel this go around, I think that might be the biggest thing they're looking for on these next few green flag laps.
You're doing the math and thinking we've had 2 cautions in roughly the first 30 laps, so you can extrapolate it out and figure how many we're going to get. The problem is the intensity meter peaks the later we get in the going. People that aren't making aggressive moves right now, with 10 to go, with 5 to go, with 1 or 2 to go, will absolutely be making those aggressive moves. So things are going to get a little nastier out there before it's over.
Give me a little rundown of these drivers that you see up front, James, and where they fit into the equation. You got Keffer up there, Slate, Wood. We've talked about Jeff Green. Your thoughts on the guys that are running up front right now?
I think if there's one that stands out and one that deserves a mention, Josh Slate, who's part of the PR team at Dominion Raceway just outside of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Josh has had a very solid season. Just missed out on the cut for the round of 10, but he's been very consistent, very, very strong week on week. And I would argue probably time for him to get a finish that might be a little bit better than what he's been able to post in some of these races. But I watched that number 1 truck. I have to believe he's got a little bit more in the bag. You've got plenty of drivers around him that know how to get it done in this series. Ron Capps, Ryan Vargas, Raj Caruth, Matt Stolnick won the last plate race we ran with the Xfinity cars at Daytona. But keep an eye on that number 1 truck. He might not be so bad at this.
And I had Jason Keffer in the 33, but I've now gotten my notes updated, and they indicate that Jason is in the 01. So he stays out here, takes over the race lead. Row 2, you got Gabe Wood and Jeff Green. And we had speculated Raj Caruth would restart in the top 5. He's not too far off with some of those drivers that stayed out. He had a very, very fast truck earlier. We complete lap 29 as we return to the green flag at Talladega.
A lot of trucks had failed to really play much of a catch-up game with the front of the pack. So they'll be starting a couple or 300 yards further behind. But at the front of the pack, Jason Keffer's got the lead and some drafting help down on the bottom of the racetrack.
We don't see Jason Keffer all the time. Great to see him on the entry list tonight. A strategy play has got him out front, and he's got some nice drafting help from Gabe Wood. Outside lane, we talked about Slate. He's getting a push from Jeff Green, who's made some headlines tonight in the race. They're 2 by 2 as they hit turn 3. Ryan Vargas, Raj Caruth, a part of the equation out front.
This is where things get interesting, because if you're in that outside lane, you want to try and crowd the guy down a little bit, prevent him from going full throttle, or at least getting back to the throttle as quickly as he wants to. If you're in that inside lane, you want to try and take a little more real estate yourself to force a wider line for that outside group. And now you see the lane change jumping down low. Josh Slate changes lanes, goes to the bottom, and that's going to leave him in a battle for the lead.
And the guy he's racing for the lead now is Jeff Green, who's getting drafting help from one of our championship contenders, Matt Stolnick, in the 41, giving him a shove. Matt was up front quite a bit earlier tonight. And now we go 3 wide. Raj Caruth jumps out in front of the 20 of Dave Schildhouse. Garrett Smithley up there as well. There's playoff contenders everywhere now.
Schildhouse got rooted up out of the groove, got shoved up the racetrack, and was up there momentarily 3 wide all by himself. Raj Caruth jumped up there to give him a little bit of help. Also going to the outside lane was Garrett Smithley. But I'll tell you what, Schildhouse has got to start pedaling here, because he's way up next to the wall all by himself, and he's got no help front or back.
And flashing by, a playoff driver that we have not mentioned, Ford Martin in the 07.
We don't want to mention him.
He helped us get set up tonight. He's like our coordinating producer here in the Fox studios. You see him in the outside lane behind Smithley, and now he's going to get some drafting help from Anthony Alfredo. We're on board with 4 down.
It'll never last. It'll absolutely never last. He cannot stand to be running near the front of the pack. He'll have to do something to mess it up.
You better be careful or you're going to get your per diem cut. You know that?
I'm not getting a per diem. I'm not getting a per anything. I know. Here's the key. His mama and his daddy are watching tonight, and the worse I talk about him, the better they like it. So I'm going to keep going.
Now, let me ask you this question. When you look at that 07, what do you think of at Talladega? What driver comes
Clint
to mind?
Boyer.
Oh, yeah.
Upside down and on fire, but Clint Boyer. Yeah.
He was always good at Daytona and Talladega.
Except that time he was upside down and on fire.
I think it was 2007 when Kevin Harvick won the race, and as you said, he ended up on his lid. But he always had a flair for the dramatic, did Clint Boyer. And here's Raj Caruth making moves in that outside lane. A spin earlier as we closed on lap 20, but he's been able to drive back through the field. And a driver that's looking for his 3rd career win is out in front of the pack, and big crash behind him. It's going to be our 3rd caution of the night, and there were a number of big-name drivers involved.
Yeah, that one started ugly, and it got really ugly in a big hurry. Looked like Ron Capps kind of got door slammed in that middle lane. It turned him sideways, and then it was just on from there. Let's take a look at the replay. You watch, that's Capps in the outside lane about 2nd row back, and yeah, you can see he just got nailed in the left side door, and from there on, it's just hang on for dear life.
Jeff Green was one of those drivers involved. I'm not so sure, but I thought the 41 of Matt Stallneck might have got a piece of that. I think I also saw the 97 of Shane Van Gisbergen. And this aerial should show us a whole lot more of the drivers that were crashed here at lap 34.
It was hard to tell where it started. We're going to get, you're right, we're going to get a good look at it here. Yeah, Jeff Green just got hit from behind, and it turned him right up the racetrack into Ron Capps. All right, no more debate about whether you use the reset now, because sometimes Talladega makes that decision for you.
There's Capps, there's Stallneck. Josh Slate was also someone that was involved in that crash. Hey, let's talk to Ron Capps.
Hey, Capps, it's Moody. What have you done to my truck?
Oh, well, it wasn't me, Moody. You can see we got some kids in here, and sometimes they just don't understand that you got to take your time. I'm trying to help Matt into the pit area here, but yeah, we were going fine, and a couple of these kids, man, they just want to go 5 wide, and you know, we already got a death grip on it, and I got Moody on my hood. I'm trying to protect you. So here we go in the pits. I'm going to use my fast repair, and we'll get back out there. I'll get you up front. Don't you worry.
All right, for the record, the truck looks fantastic. I think you need to talk to the Don. I think that paint scheme would look great. I mean, great on the funny car.
I agree. I think your face going 330 miles an hour with a microphone would be awesome.
I think Dave actually looks better crashed now that I see it that way.
Just adding to the wrinkles.
So everybody comes down pit road, and there will be multiple strategies that play out here as we're closing on the halfway point. Many drivers will come down and use that fast repair, Ron Capps among them, because they were involved in that crash. Others who were able to stay clean come down, get fuel, tires, and they stay in the game in that regard. And here's a look at Mike Clay, who I think stayed out. And likely if he pitted 6-7 laps ago, you weren't involved in the accident. This is a real nice play for track position.
Is it coincidental that the guys that are at the front of the pack right now have clean race trucks? I don't think so.
Right. And how big is it? Is your rewind, and we talked about this, for Raj Caruth, he crashes, right, gets involved in an accident. Shouldn't really say he crashed. He didn't. He got involved in an accident, but kept it off the wall. Drives his way back to the lead. Is out front when the accident happens behind him. So he still is hanging on to that fast repair, where many of those other championship contenders had to use theirs right here. That's a big deal for him.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. It looks like he's got a little bit of damage in the back bumper area of that number 6 truck. So I'm guessing you're right that he's not used the fast repair. Otherwise, it's in pretty decent shape right now.
Started 32nd. Drove to the front, got cycled back again, and once again was showing as the race leader, although he might be coming to pit road here. We'll keep an eye on Raj as we send it to Justin again.
And keep in mind, these drivers tonight have 14 gallons of fuel in the tanks with the 75% fuel limit. So these drivers are still in range of having one more pit stop to make it to the end. A couple of these teams have discussed potentially trying to play things out fuel strategy wise. The majority of these competitors continuing to bank those fast repairs though with the last strategy and stop. Anthony Alfredo in particular has severe damage on both the left and right sides of his front of his truck. He's planning to potentially get that truck repaired as much as he can.
A great report there from Justin that puts it all in perspective of how strategy could play a role in this race.
Well, it's always difficult to plan strategy, fuel strategy at Talladega because the draft plays so much of a role. If you're at the front of the pack, saving fuel is virtually impossible. If you're back around 10th or 12th or 15th, you can actually stay tucked right up on the back bumper of the car in front of you, truck in front of you in this case, at half or even 3/4 throttle. You can save a ton of fuel that way, but you don't always get to run where you want to run.
The other thing that we need to bring up here, and that is the rules of Monday Night Racing. You get the one fast repair. We mentioned there are no stage breaks, but the other thought is the fact that if you have a caution, you can wave around 2 laps every time. I mean, James, that's the best part to me, and what makes Monday night so friendly for the competitors is, I won't say you're never out of it, but for the most part, you can stay in it till the very end, even if you've had a problem.
I think that's part of the ethos of Monday Night Racing, that this is more about just making sure that we have fun on Monday nights and we go across many different track and car combinations and showcase the breadth and depth of what iRacing can offer. Tonight, you know, we've got the trucks at Talladega, but we can do a whole bunch of stuff. We can go dirt racing at Knoxville. We can go road course racing at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We can do so much in the sim, and I think that's part of the beauty of MNR is that you get to see so many people jump across different leagues, and it's not necessarily about trying to prove that you're number one and you're faster than everybody else. I think it's more about just having fun. And the wave around rule, maybe more so than any other rule in the book here with this league, helps make that all possible.
You mentioned running all different types of vehicles at all different types of tracks. Next weekend on the road course at Homestead Miami Speedway with Porsches, right? That's the final race in the round of 10?
We talked to Brad Perez a little bit about it, and Brad had a big week. Got to announce he's got an Arcadillo. He's going racing with Josh Williams to the number 60 this Friday night at Watkins Glen, and you can see that broadcast at 6 p.m. Eastern on FS1 if you're so inclined. But he said outright, Hollywood, Florida native has run Homestead more times than he can count in his sleep. He said, if I don't win that race, I'm going to be disappointed. Expect me out of experience that he's got, so watch for him to be quick when we get there to Miami next week.
So we're down to 40 laps to go, and it's just about time for the restart. And Mike Clay was up front when he stayed out there, and he's gone.
That may be the greatest restart in the history of restarts.
I mean, that's like when the pace car got stolen at Talladega. That's how far out he was there. That leaves behind him Raj Caruth and Ryan Vargas among those 2x2 in the draft.
Well, the good news for everybody that did not get left behind by Mike Clay's spectacular restart is that he's out there all by himself, and this pack will eat him alive in very short order. He will not be out there for long.
Yeah, it looks good, right, on paper. Unfortunately, when the pack comes running you down and you have no drafting help, he'll be looking in that rearview mirror quite a bit, to say the least. And, you know, we've talked a lot tonight about David Schildhaus. And once again, he's at the front. And another driver we need to talk about, that 21 of Max Kinnon. He, too, one of our championship contenders in the top 10. First time we've seen him there much tonight.
Well, he's had a pretty quiet first 38, 39, 40 laps, but he's getting toward the front of the pack at about the time you want to start getting to the front of the pack. I like the strategy for some of these guys that have been a little bit quiet. You know, I keep looking back and seeing Garrett Smithley just kind of lurking around the top 10, top 12, biding his time, staying out of trouble, waiting for crunch time.
Again, this is the opening race in the round of 10. If one of the 10 drivers that you see highlighted in red wins this race, you automatically advance to the round of 7. And we will get down to 7 next Monday night on Monday Night Racing. We talked about it on the road course at the Homestead Miami Speedway. We're running Porsches there. A win locks you in, and an update of the points on the right side of your screen. Right now, Raj Caruth at plus 24. Brad Perez on the outside looking in. So is DJ Cummings. And the 41 of Matt Stallneck. Those are drivers that have had some problems here tonight.
And look who's coming back into the picture now. Clay's restart has left him a man without a country. They're going to pass him high. They're going to pass him low. He's doing a pretty good job of trying to block as many of them as he can, but he is thoroughly and completely outnumbered.
Now, you know, when NASCAR goes to Talladega, that double yellow line is out of bounds. You can't go down there. If you put all four below the double yellow line and you pass somebody, it's a no-no. Raj Caruth is doing that. I'm assuming on Monday night, we're going to let that go. That is not a penalty. If there's asphalt, it's fair game.
That's exactly right. It's like he's running Talladega tonight like they run Phoenix is what he's doing. They just go
like
all the way to the infield, cut through the garage, come back out in turn one.
Now, he slid back. Ryan Vargas is taking over that top spot on the inside lane. Outside lane belongs to Schildhouse. The 20 is back up there. Alfredo in the top 10. So is Davison. And Jeff Green is 6 now.
Jeff Green has not been far from the action tonight. He's been lurking either at the front of the pack or lurking near the front of the pack. And I'll say the same thing for Schildhouse. He's found a way to bounce back from a little bit of adversity here, and he's right back in the hunt again.
And give credit to Mike Clay because he got that big advantage. They run him down. They put him in some compromising positions, but he was able to latch onto the draft. He's in the top 10 running 7th, Dave.
Yeah, he's hanging on. 6th, 7th place right now. He was able to find himself a little bit of a hole in traffic, tuck in there, get sucked up by the draft, and now all that momentum that he didn't have running all by himself, he's got plenty of it in the middle of the pack.
Raj Caruth jumped to the outside lane. He's looking for the race lead there. He had been tucked in behind Vargas, but drafting help from Schildhouse pushes that 6 truck back out front, and just behind them, the 38, that's Anthony Alfredo, who's hanging tough as well.
That was a pretty good 3-man draft there for just a minute. Schildhouse drafting. Green also right in the middle of that. Anthony Alfredo as well. You get the feeling that if Raj Caruth could get those guys to just stay on his back bumper for a little bit, they could do some good work together.
You know, we're used to seeing it at Talladega. Virtually every time we come here, we get a photo finish or one that is decided within, 15, 20 feet of the start-finish line. I think we're setting ourselves up for that again tonight because it doesn't matter high or low. Doesn't seem to be a real particular advantage there. And we've been running at least 2 wide the entire race tonight under green. The racing has been spectacular as we hit 34 laps to go. We're past halfway in the Sim Seats 200 from virtual Talladega Superspeedway.
This field, they get 3 wide for a while, and then it's like they come to their senses and they get back down to single file or double wide racing. At the front of the pack, though, we're starting to see some of those familiar names. Davison's back up front, Vargas is back up front, Raj Caruth, Jeff Green, and certainly Schildhouse, who's been there for most of the evening.
Gabe Wood is another driver in the 50 that has had a number of laps tonight inside the top 10. Just below him, Mike Clay, who's hanging around. Devin Henry, the young reporter from Arizona, is in the top 10. Our good buddy, Ford Martin, is 9th right now in the 07. He'd love a win and a chance to advance in Monday night racing to the round of 7.
Got to give him a little bit of credit here. He hasn't screwed it up yet, so, anything's possible.
Hey, and some drivers have had problems. And I'm talking about championship drivers. Ford gets the top 10, leaves here above the cut line, play a little defense next weekend in Miami, and have a chance to move on to the playoffs.
Well, long way to go in this one yet, and I like the idea that a lot of these front runners here, Adam, have just kind of taken a chill pill. They've kind of relaxed a little bit. You're not seeing guys shoot out 3, 4 wide, changing lanes radically. They're all just kind of lined up 2 by 2 and logging some laps here and keeping their trucks in good shape. A lot of that may go back to the point that they've already used up their reset and they can't do it again.
What we're seeing right now is kind of a replay of what we saw the first 20 laps. The next 15 laps, things got a bit out of hand, as you said, Dave. Everyone has calmed down. They're waiting for the right time to pounce, perhaps inside of 10, 15 laps to go. Justin, what do you have?
And for Ford Martin in particular, he mentioned those first 20 laps or so, he wanted to use to allow drivers to calm down, get into that set rhythm you referred to, and then move on forward. His game plan is now being executed. He mentioned he would work together with his teammates at Crypto Auto Sport with some of the drivers to try and work to the front and communicate, because their goal is to put one of their drivers into the championship four. That includes drivers like DJ Cummings, Matt Stolnick, and several others amongst that group. He emphasized that tonight they feel the team can gravitate and try and help drivers get themselves to the front this evening.
Justin, are you suggesting that Ford had a plan going into tonight's race?
I'm not so sure. What my question is, what's with the headshot? What's with the mean-mugging headshot for Ford Martin? Trying to look intimidating, I think.
It was like he hadn't eaten in 3 days.
Right?
I mean, he was angry.
We know his mama feeds him.
Hey, you talk about youth and experience. There you saw it. Ford Martin in the 07 and a 38 of Jeff Green, right? I mean, that's both sides of it. And, hey, we got to give Ford some credit. I mean, he's a second-generation racer. I mean, his dad, Gil, was on the pit box for so long and competition director, and he's been around the sport for many, many years, was a fixture in that garage area for so long. I know, Dave, for you and I, a go-to when you'd go into the garage and needed information or to talk strategy about a race. And Ford has done it all, and now working for us here at Fox after graduating from High Point University, and we like to have a little fun with Ford, but he's doing a nice job with Monday Night Racing.
Ford's been in the garage since they had to change his diaper at halfway, so there's nothing about this deal that he hasn't seen a time or two. And yes, we like to pick on him. It's easy sometimes, but he's done a really good job of keeping that truck clean and out of trouble so far.
Hey, and just behind him, you saw flash in the top 10, another playoff driver, and that's Adam Cabot. And, here's someone that's kind of come out of nowhere. That's 17. I mean, we haven't said his name, despite the fact he's one of those 10 drivers that is championship eligible, but finds himself in ninth with 30 to go and managing the race the way you need to.
Lap 25 doesn't pay a dime. You can be up front being the star of the show and getting a lot of TV time here maybe, but it doesn't pay anything. 30 laps from now, whoever's at the front will have done it exactly right. And you look at some of those guys like Cabot, guys like Henry and Wood and Robbie Lyons, who's running in the 12th spot, that have just kind of bided their time and kept the noses clean, and they'll be ready to go here in about another 10 laps.
Robbie Lyons has an average running position tonight of like 25, but he's 12th now and starting to push the button as we work our way toward 25 laps remaining. A driver out of Florida, spent some time in the Camping World Truck Series for real, also running Saturday afternoon in the Xfinity Series. If you've ever been around him, just a humble, nice young man, and making a splash in Monday Night Racing, advancing to the round of 10 and hoping for more as he sits inside the top 15. And while there's some drivers that have had that strategy of hang in the back and then work your way to the front, there's a lot of guys we see in your frame right now that have been there virtually all night long.
No question about it. Are you surprised at all that we haven't talked more about Garrett Smithley? He was a factor in the opening couple of laps and has just kind of faded back to around that top 15 position. I don't know if he's back there on purpose or not, but we haven't seen as much out of him as I thought we might have.
And he comes in on a 2-race win streak. He's won the first 2 races in the playoffs. I mean, he's looking for the hat trick, which is almost impossible to pull off at any level of racing. And you would think he's someone who's quite capable. But yes, Dave, I am surprised. I wonder, though, if this isn't a bit of his strategy in managing the fast repairs and all of that. You got to believe his level of aggression has backed off because of some of the experiences he has had in this race. And as we say that inside lane starting to take over a little bit. Ryan Vargas gets the push out front, and he's in control of this thing. That's Carruth behind him. And in that outside lane is Schildhaus. You've got 4 playoff contenders inside the top 10 right now.
Well, it's getting interesting because these guys have been going to school now for a lot of laps. They've figured out what they can do. They've figured out what they can't do, what works, what doesn't. And particularly they have figured out who they can push and who can push them that will find them that right combination of speed. And I like the looks of that outside lane right now with Schildhaus and some good drafting company in tow back there.
You talk about who you can push and who can push you and what's the best combination in the draft. Don't you love those conversations when you go to do a race at Daytona or Talladega and you get in the garage and you say, what do you have for them today and who do you want to work with? Everybody has a plan. until that green flag goes in the air. And then once you get out there, it becomes a little bit of a science project to figure out where you do fit into the draft.
It really does. I remember that the great heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan until they get hit in the mouth. And your plan at Talladega can go away almost instantly. The guy that you worked with all day long with a lap to go, if he makes a move that you don't like, you throw him to the wolves and you find somebody else to work with.
We're on board now with Matt Stallneck, and you may remember he was involved in that crash. It was the one that Ron Capps got involved in right around lap 32, something like that. He's been all over the place tonight. 25th right now. His led laps as low as 34th. But he, too, has gone the route of patience with 25 laps remaining. And a native of Syracuse, New York, doing marketing for NASCAR, and someone that we will keep an eye on as the night rolls on to see if he can make his way to the front and once again have a chance to get the win here tonight.
Still a long way to go. We're only at the 2/3 mark of this race, and a guy like Stallneck knows that he's got plenty of time. He can lollygag back there around 15th, 18th, 19th place for another 15 laps easily and have plenty of time if he makes the right moves to get back to the front of the pack. Because keep in mind, we've seen mostly 2 abreast racing here tonight. When it gets down to crunch time, 3 and 4 wide will be the rule.
Hey, we've said a lot tonight about Ryan Vargas, and he's leading the race right now. And just a second ago, we were on board with Case Kallenbach. We don't see him a lot. He actually is the crew chief for Vargas in the Xfinity Series at JD Motorsports. You talk about bragging rights on the line. That's something to talk about under a long caution on the radio, Dave.
So who cuts who a break if it comes down to the final lap here? I don't know.
Yeah, who's going to push who in the draft? That lead is changed hands quite frequently. We saw Vargas drop back. Raj Karut was up there. It was Schildhaus for a while. And now some action in the outside lane as James Davison makes a play. And let's make it 3 wide. Gabe Wood in the 50, pushing the 38 of Anthony Alfredo.
Fast Pasta picking up a little drafting help in that penthouse line, the extreme high line. And we'll see if anybody wants to slide up. Raj Karuth is going to slide up and take the lead in that outside line right now. And he may get the shove all the way to the lead here.
Who's been the most aggressive in this race? I feel like Raj Karuth at the front has really done a lot of maneuvering back and forth between the top and the bottom.
No doubt about it. And if you do it right, it can work for you. If you're bouncing around from lane to lane and you're doing it right, it can work. But all it takes is one wrong move at the wrong time. You zig when you should have zagged, or somebody doesn't expect you to do what you do, and all of a sudden you get turned around. And you look what's happening right now. You know, Raj Karuth trying to keep himself in that right line. The problem is the right line changes about 8 times a lap here lately.
Hey, Justin reported earlier, everybody's going to have to make a pit stop. And we're going to see some here under green. And we said this in the broadcast. Very difficult to execute the green flag pit stop at a place like Talladega for so many reasons.
Here they come. We're going to see them try it right now. And it's right. You've got to downshift. You got to get to the brake pedal, and you've got to slow it down from approximately 200 miles an hour all the way down to pit road speed. It is so easy to speed on pit road at Talladega.
You got to communicate on track that you're going to make a stop. You also have to communicate that you're coming in so you have someone to come with you. So when you exit pit road, as you said earlier, you can't come alone or you won't have a drafting partner. So you have to make sure there's a core group of trucks that fit together. So once you return to the racetrack, you are in the draft together. We saw some come with 23 to go, and I would anticipate as the laps roll off, we'll continue to see drivers peel down and make pit stops under green. And it looks like that section up front will bypass this time and go at least one more lap.
How many times over the years, Adam, have we seen somebody try to come to pit road? The guy behind him had no idea he was going to come to pit road, and he just gets jacked up, and it turns into a giant wreck at the head end of pit road. You got to communicate. You know, on a regular race day, the spotters are responsible for that, telling each other we're coming in, get off my back bumper. Here tonight, boy, it can be a real challenge just getting to pit road without getting run over from behind.
There's someone that you might want to just gauge your moves off of here, and that's Jeff Green. I mean, we mentioned the fact he's been around forever. He knows how to do this. He understands the fundamentals. If you're going to make a green flag pit stop here, he might be the guy to go off of, and careful. We got one of those slower trucks. I think that's Mike Clay, right? It is. And now we've got the big one, and it's all a product of lap traffic, and maybe there's only going to be a couple of trucks involved. It's not even a big one. We stay green, Dave. That was unbelievable through the grass.
Unbelievable. Shieldhouse through the grass, Green through the grass, and somehow or another, both of them are back on the racing surface. You can see Green kind of gave a little bit of a shove to Ryan Vargas, got him up to that 3-wide outside lane. Let's see if we can see what happens here. They go 4 wide, trying to move around the slower truck, and Green and Shieldhouse get together.
I just have no idea how that did not collect the entire field racing at the front around a slower truck, and basically the race leader, one of the guys running on the front row, gets turned around. He slides through the grass, everyone drives away, and we stay green with 20 laps remaining.
Whole lot of skill and maybe just a smattering of dumb luck there, because sometimes you just have to aim for daylight and pray that it stays open. And for a lot of people, they hit that piece of daylight, nobody else got involved, and it just turned into a 2-truck incident.
And the new race leader is going to be Garrett Smithley, and actually Ryan Vargas jumps out front now in that lower lane, Justin.
Yes, indeed. And keep in mind, stunned silence for David Shieldhouse on the radio after that incident. Keep in mind, he emphasized that anything short of a win tonight would be disappointing. And fortunate for him on that strategy where he mentioned that he wanted to take part in this exciting action and was focusing on trying to stay towards the front for this race.
But when you drop back and you lose the draft, and they're back now in a secondary draft, it's hard to overcome unless we get a caution. And how the cautions fall, if at all here, could go a long way in deciding this race. And now we've got more green flag pit stops.
There's one way and only one way to get back into that lead draft when you've fallen behind, and that's everybody in that second group has to get single file, nose to tail, calm down, and don't try and pass each other. Just work together to try and catch up to that lead group.
These are scheduled green flag pit stops that we just saw happening with 18 laps to go. Ford Martin among those on the pit lane. He's one of our drivers going for the championship. Best right now, when you look at drivers still alive for the title in Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, is Raj Caruth. He's in the second position right now behind Ryan Vargas. And Garrett Smithley also in the top 10. And now Caruth, Vargas, and many other of the front runners going to come down and make their green flag stop.
Man, it's like the Oklahoma land rush right now. Everybody's got their little piece of real estate. They're all diving onto pit road. The good news, Adam, is if they can execute this properly, they're going to all come back out onto the racetrack roughly in a group, and they should be able to pick up some draft and haul the mail pretty quickly.
Across the board, I think the green flag pit stops have been executed really well in the last 10 laps or so.
Very well indeed. But half of the battle is getting off pit road as well and getting back up to speed and having enough drafting help to make that work. Now you look at this group here, they have stayed out, but they haven't got nearly the numbers of that group that came to pit road. So the only thing they can do right now is get themselves in single file and try and make as much time as they can while that larger group is on pit road.
And now they will give up the top spot and come down. I'm talking about Adam Cabot, who also is a driver championship eligible after advancing to the round of 10. The 17 truck is on pit road. A couple of others making stops here as well. And I think this will be the last of the drivers who were yet to pit under green. Things should cycle back through the Caruth, Davison, and Vargas, although it looks like Brown is still on track, and also the 4 of Brett Baldeck. We'll see how it all cycles out here.
So everybody right now just looking to find their spot. The drivers that have pitted, and they're doing really good work right here, Adam, because they're getting in line and they're just trying to cut away that deficit that they fell into by being on pit road. The best way to catch that group is to calm down, settle down, get in line, and draft together.
We're down now to 15 laps to go. Make it 16 laps remaining as they cross the start-finish line this time around. And Brown and Cabot showing as the race leaders, the first 2. Not sure where they were in regard to pit stops. I thought a moment ago they had made their green flag stop. Maybe that's not the case. And so then you would cycle back to Caruth and Vargas. We'll continue to watch this thing, but from Caruth and Vargas on back, That's the group that we have been focused on, and now we have heard that Brown and Cabot have pitted. So what you are seeing here is the battle for the race lead.
They got really good pit stops, got on and off pit road with a good deal of speed. They are out in front of the pack. That's the good news. But it's also the bad news, because you can see them right there. They've got zero drafting help, and here comes the thundering herd.
But if you go back, remember when Mike Clay got that huge jump on a restart, right? And we thought he was going to be in trouble. It didn't work out to maintain the race lead, but once the pack caught him, he was able to stay in the top 10. We'll see if Brown and Cabot can do the same. And hey, give credit to Cabot here. I mean, he's trying to advance. If he can maintain this track position, pick up some points late in this race, that could go a huge way in deciding his fate when it comes to advancing in the playoffs.
It's all about finding himself a spot in line. Maybe he can throw a block, check up the progress of that group behind him, and become the leader of the pack. More likely, he's just going to have to find himself a little bit of daylight to slide in line. You can see they're going to go up, they're going to go around him, leave him on the bottom of the racetrack, and now he's in search mode. Where can I slide in? Whose back bumper can I grab to try and pick up this draft?
14 laps to go. And here comes the pack. Carruth takes over the race lead, and now we have trouble. Trucks going everywhere, and we'll get our fourth caution of the night. Looks like Ryan Vargas might have been involved. You see the 53 there. That's Justin Melillo that got a piece of the action. Here's the replay.
Well, just a situation of too many people going for the same piece of real estate. And again, when that lead pack catches some slower trucks, despite the fact that they were running first and second at the time, they are not running at the same pace. And everybody's trying to find open daylight, and they just ran out of real estate.
It looked to me like Garrett Smithley got a little damage there. We'll check another replay. In fact, we're going to go on board here. This is Gabe Wood we're riding with in the outside lane. Look at that, the parting of the seas.
That's a heck of a job by Gabe Wood to drive through the middle of that. He was in that wreck earlobe deep and found a little bit of room to slide his way through.
So good fortune for Gabe Wood, and it's what you said a moment ago, Dave. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. That's always the case when you're in the draft at Talladega Superspeedway. And with 13 laps to go, this will really probably show the hand of those drivers that still have that fast repair and those who do not. And I've got to believe some of the guys that were involved in that crash out of luck now, because they probably used that fast repair earlier tonight.
And what else it's going to do is tighten this field up for the final 10, maybe 12 laps. Everybody's going to be in roughly the same piece of real estate here. Nobody's trying to play catch up anymore. Nobody's out in front by a couple of seconds trying to fend off the pack. They're all going to form up, double file restart. We'll see who's got what here down the stretch.
Well, and we said that earlier. You know, green flag pit stops will always serve as a way to break up the pack at Talladega. But the caution brings them right back together, as you indicated. We are going to see a couple of trucks come down pit road. Saw Garrett Smithley pull off there. He'll make a pit stop. But I look at the top 10, and I see Brandon Brown up there. He was one of those drivers that had that great pit stop, stayed out front. And Adam Cabot as well. That's huge for those drivers.
I think Brown went to pit. No, he didn't. I thought I saw him heading off, peeling off to go to pit road. But in fact, he did not. He will stay on the track. So it's Raj Carruth, Brown, Rogers, Henry, and Cabot, at least for the moment, will be the top 5.
And you know, pit stops may reset this thing, but look at all of those drivers highlighted in red up there in the top 15. These are all drivers, Dave, going for the championship. They can't ask for anything more than to be in position with right around 10 laps to go, and that's likely where we will be when we get the restart. What do you have for us, Justin?
And the reason you see those trucks, by the way, up towards the front is both of them did not take tires there and took a little less fuel to be able to gain some track position. Now, this play has worked out how they hope things to play out. In regards to Cabot in particular, his strategy was to try and stay towards the back throughout this race, try and play it safe, and then wait for his opportunities to move forward. He mentioned as well he didn't have anyone to work with, going solo entering this race. He looks to race a little bit more aggressive for this one. He hopes to finish in the top 10. That's his goal for him and his spotter, Bailey Turner.
Here's the deal. You might not have any drafting help, but when you get to this point, everybody wants to be your friend. When you got a good truck and you're out front, right?
If you're fast, yes. A fast truck will have more friends than it knows what to do with. A slow truck, forget about it. You're on your own. I like the strategy, though. He did a little bit of math and said, I'm not going to get a lot of help out there, so I'm going to have to outthink them rather than outmuscle them.
James, the restart's going to happen, right around 10 laps to go. Your observations on what we're seeing here?
Two groups that I look at in particular that stand out to me as we move towards the final laps of this race. The first, that Space Station Gaming tandem of Rajah Caruth and Will Rogers. You all have talked about how aggressive Rajah's been on so many of the different moves he's made throughout this race. He draws heavy inspiration from Malik Ray, driver for SSG and the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. And Malik is known around the community for being one of the very best plate racers possible. He's also one of the most aggressive plate racers out there. Has coached Rajah on many different occasions on how to run on these big tracks, and probably not a bad thing if you're learning from Malik Ray. He's got multiple wins in the eNASCAR Road to Pro Contenders Series, some of the best he's beaten on these plate tracks. So no surprise to see Raj up there, and Will, a season 2 champion at MNR. No shocker he's up there. The other group that I look at, the drivers that have a tremendous amount of sim racing experience, in particular David Schildhouse and Adam Cabot. Schildhouse has been around the scene for nearly 20 years and also drives a lot like his favorite driver from back in the day, Matt Kenseth. He grew up a fan of the driver from Cambridge, Wisconsin, so no shocker that Schildhouse is maybe a little bit more conservative and measured in his moves. And Adam Cabot won his way into season 3 of Monday Night Racing by picking up the trophy in the Esports Racing League, won the championship in that back in the spring, and then backed it up with a win at Indianapolis in this season of Monday Night Racing a little bit earlier on this year. So those two, Cabot and Schildhouse, have experience. I think those 4 might be the ones to watch as we get into the final 10 laps in this race.
The race tonight, about what you expected, James? You've been a part of this series each and every week and seen multiple races at Talladega.
I would say so for the most part. You're going to end up with some wrecks. You're going to end up with some people who burn their faster pairs. And I think the last piece that we're missing, we're going to see a wild finish. Every time we've come here, you can expect the unexpected. And we'll probably have them 3 and 4 wide coming out of turn 4. We just don't know who's going to be in position and who's going to make the right move. Other thing that I noticed here, and maybe somewhat in the camp of drivers who had that sim racing experience that we just noted as we get set to go back to green here when they come back around, Brandon Brown's got a decent amount of experience. And Brandon's the kind of driver that loves the test, loves running the 87s in particular, the Chevy Monte Carlo and the Ford Thunderbird. Those are 2 of the most difficult stock cars to run in all of iRacing, and those are 2 of his favorites. So he's got a lot of skill, got a lot of talent. It takes a lot to make those things go fast, and he usually is pretty good in those. And I have a feeling those skills will translate well to the truck. Pit strategy, skill, maybe, just maybe, might push him to victory lane. We'll have to see.
Hey, one more thing. I got to believe there's a real good shot we're going to get an overtime finish, right? Because we're all bunched up with 10 laps to go. Go over the rules and the procedures should we get another late caution here.
If we get a yellow that pushes up into a green-white checker, we'll have 3 attempts at a green-white checker finish, and it's the same as you see with the NASCAR National Touring Series. If we get a yellow flag before we get the white flag, we'll restack them and rack them up and do it again. If we get to the white flag and take it, then we'll go all the way and we'll race to the end. We'll just have to see what happens.
I'll bet the mortgage on that happening.
No doubt. There will be a green-white checker tonight. I'm sure of that. Podium Esports, proud to bring you the opening race in the round of 10. It's Monday Night Racing, and our 4th caution of the night will set us up for a 10-lap shootout. The green flag in the air. Here we go once again from Talladega.
Final 11 laps, 10 laps as they come to the line to settle this one once and for all. Raj Caruth has got the lead, and he's picking up some drafting help right now. Just about everybody going to the bottom of the racetrack, and that's going to be good news for Raj Caruth.
Raj Caruth driving with one eye out the windshield, one eye in the rearview mirror, getting some drafting help from his teammate, Will Rogers, right behind him. In the 55, that's 77. We talked about him earlier, Devin Henry. And if you're just joining us, remember, drivers highlighted in red in the scoring pylon going for the championship. They win tonight. They move on to the round of 7. So much on the line, and so many drivers in that category have a chance. And we should also remind you at this point of the race where the start-finish line is. It's not middle of the tri-oval at Talladega. It's at the exit of the tri-oval right there. 9 laps to go. They continue side by side at the front.
Brandon Brown, who got backpedaled up, they're tangling in the back of the pack again. And
we are going to get a caution.
Caution is out.
Ryan Vargas among those drivers involved.
Boy, the evening started so well for Ryan, and just a couple of incidents here late have taken him completely out of his strategy. Let's see if we can pick up on what happened there. There's Vargas running in the middle of the track pretty much all by himself. Moves up to the outside lane, trying to catch some draft. Well, I don't know. Again, too many moves. I mean, in all honesty, too many moves in a short period of time, and went for a piece of real estate that was already occupied.
Also wonder is as banged up as that truck is, if it wasn't just a handling issue. You know what I mean? Like, given benefit of the doubt here. And on board with Garrett Smithley, a driver who's won 2 races in a row and championship eligible. Watch this, Dave.
Plenty of room. Plenty of room.
Worked out quite well.
Wasn't worried for a minute. Had him covered the whole way.
So Garrett stays alive. And, you know, we were just talking to James about the potential for overtime. And now we're in a circumstance where we're going to get a restart with, 7, maybe 6 laps to go. I'd say it'd be at least 6, maybe 5 laps to go when we get this thing restarted. And that's when the energy in that draft will really build.
Well, we're at that point of the evening's festivities, Adam, where you're not cutting anybody a break. I mean, nobody gets a lift. Nobody gets a break. Nobody gets to slide up across your front bumper and fill the hole in front of you. You're just, as we say, I've said it a million times on MRN over the years, give and take turns into grab and go right about now, and you don't have any friends anymore.
I love the execution that you guys have in MRN Radio, and I'm going to hear from James here for a second, and then I want to talk to you about the emotion of being in the turn in these situations. James, what do you have for us?
2 points. One, the drivers that I talked about on that last yellow flag, note that they are, 5 of the top 6 or 6 of the top 7 there. All of Carruth and Brown and Rogers and Schildhouse have Cabot have made their way to the front. So to me, it almost feels like we're watching maybe a Denny Hamlin or a Kyle Busch or, your presumptive favorite at a restrictor plate track who is going to be there. And the question is whether or not this finish pans out in such a way that they're the ones that get to lead it to the end, or whether or not we get some sort of wacky craziness that comes in and throws them all for a loop, even though they've had some of the best trucks all evening. A. B, the other point that is worth noting as we come under the yellow flag is that there's plenty of action coming up in those aforementioned 1987s that I mentioned with Brandon Brown just a few moments ago. We're doing a whole month of racing with them. We're going to Darlington Raceway with the 1987 Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird and the Retro 500. Head to the link on your screen or punch it in chat if you're on Twitch, podiumesports.com/Retro 500. 4 qualifying races running on Wednesdays throughout the month of August before we head to the main race. Labor Day evening, Monday night, September 6, 2021, 367 laps, 500 miles, full sun. We're going to run that in the daytime, so it will be a test of skill and a test of fortitude, and someone is going to walk away $500 richer, which should be a lot of fun, I think, for all involved, and could be a little bit messy, I think. We'll see how well drivers can hoon the 87s around Darlington, but certainly a lot of fun, and we'll keep our eyes peeled on that. If you're interested, hop onto the web link you see on your screens and register soon. Should be a lot of fun, no question, Dave and Adam.
87s at Darlington? That'll be good, huh?
I was at Darlington in '87. It was fun then. Yeah,
you're showing your age, Dave.
There's no way to hide it at this point, Adam. There's no question.
All right, they're getting all lined up here, and we're showing 7 laps to go. I'm not sure if we'll go green this time or not. They're a little bit disjointed. If we go another lap, and now you're taking it down to 5 laps remaining, and that means you're going to. That cuts in half what we thought was going to be a dramatic finish when we got the restart with 10 to go, and we just got word that the lights are still on our pace truck. A little bit hard to tell from time to time in our monitor, so we'll probably be 5 laps to go when we get the restart. Should be a good one, Justin.
It should be, and keep in mind, one of the drivers who's had an adventure tonight is Brad Perez. At the start of the race, he had a technical issue, lost a lap, was able to regain that lap with one of the early caution flags. He explained to me where he wanted to be a bit more patient with this race and wait until that 5 laps to go mark until he executes. And right now, it's that time for Perez to start charging forward. This is exactly the time he waited for this race. He looks to do something to find his way to win. He feels it takes a lot of talent to do so. This is going to be interesting for Perez.
The one problem with that charge with 5 to go strategy everybody else is charging with 5 to go as well. If you wait till the final 5 laps, you're not going to catch any breaks from anybody. Nobody's going to give you an inch. Everybody is hammered down with 5 laps to go.
Hey, but give Perez a nod, right? I mean, he's in the game. He's overcome some adversity tonight. James talked earlier about the fact that he'll run that ARCA race at Watkins Glen. He's won on a Monday night, did so in the All-Star race just a few weeks ago, and was also able to win in the next gen car at Road America when we were up there in the regular season. So that 30 truck has been strong tonight, and we've seen him be a player throughout the regular season. Brad Perez out of Hollywood, Florida, a crew member from Martin's Motorsports, but also has a desire to get behind the wheel. And now we're going to get the restart with 5 laps to go. And I go back to what we were talking about before James took care of some business there. When you're on at turn stand at MRN Radio and you get down to about 5 laps to go, the moment we're in this race, Dave, how does your energy level, your emotion change as a turn announcer?
Oh, right about now you're dancing in place, because even if things go according to plan, it's going to be crazy. They rarely, if ever, go according to plan, and then it gets really crazy. You're just trying to figure out which half of the field that enters turn 1 is actually going to make it to you in turn 2, because most of the time they don't.
And I've always said that one of the best aspects of racing at Talladega, and we talked about this off the top, the unknown. And that is always a huge factor here. And we've been racing for 70 laps. And here we are with 5 remaining, and we have absolutely no idea what to expect. The unpredictability of Talladega Superspeedway, whether you're there in person or doing it virtually, is hard to beat. And we've got 5 laps to decide it in the opening race of the round of 10 of Monday Night Racing.
There are 100 different plans to try and win at Talladega Superspeedway. None of them work. None of them work every single time. You just have to play your cards the best way you can. You have to be willing to improvise, change your strategy at a moment's notice, all beginning with this final restart as they come down to the line looking for the green flag. And immediately Garrett Smithley takes a little peek to the outside there. I think he decided better of it.
And Raj Caruth is going to lead this field into turn 1. Outside lane belongs to Brandon Brown. He's got some drafting help from the 20. That's David Schildhouse. Those are teammates working together on that inside lane. Will Rogers is down there. You got Devin Henry in the top 10. Ford Martin, a playoff driver, is there. Adam Cabot, who had a great strategy tonight, is 7th. And Matt Stallnack inside the top 10. He's had his fair share of issues, but he's got a chance to win this thing in the 41.
With less than 5 laps to go at Talladega, if you're running in the top 3 and you look in the rearview mirror and you see a teammate, man, that's Christmas come early right now. I like the look of Brown and Schildhouse tag teaming in that outside groove.
The big headline, no doubt, is who wins this race tonight, because you always want to win at Talladega, but keep one eye on the point standings. A winner tonight advances, but we also have to look at that cut line right now. They're separated at the cut by 2 points. Every position in this race is huge inside of 4 laps to go.
Raj Caruth by about a truck length in that bottom lane, but they've left him in the middle. Raj Caruth just got abandoned in the middle of the racetrack. He's going to go for the lead, and he'll be lucky if he can hang on to the top 5.
But could that middle lane make a rally? Now Raj Caruth becomes the pusher, and he's given a shove to Dave Schildhouse, who's trying to get the lead. And he's got a couple of more trucks behind him. Among them is Garrett Smithley, Ford Martin there as well.
Schildhouse has spent most of the night trying to bypass Raj Caruth for the lead. Now Caruth becomes Schildhouse's best buddy on the back bumper. As they continue to work the outside, the teammates Schildhouse and Brown now go head-to-head inside and out.
3 laps to go. Brown hanging tough in that inside lane. It's Rogers pushing him. And here comes Garrett Smithley rallying up high.
Garrett Smithley has got a truck bed full of drafting help right now from Anthony Alfredo, and they have got it rolling in that outside lane. Garrett Smithley all the way to the lead.
And the caution is out. We've had either some debris on track or an accident that we did not see on our monitor. And there it is. So the problem happening for Case Kallenbach in the 84, and that will bring out the caution. 3 laps to go. And what was our wager? wager on a green-white checker finish?
We win. Yeah, we win. We'll have a green-white checker. Yeah, I guess that was a little bit more of a skirmish than we realized at the time. Total of 4 trucks involved and a pretty good lick into that inside safer barrier by Case Kallenbach.
Yeah, and Brett Baldack also involved out of Rochester, New York, the reporter for Fox 46 in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shows up each and every week, and he's a great follow on social media, so self-deprecating about his performance in Monday Night Racing.
Well, if we weren't down to it before, Adam, we're down to it now.
How big is that last restart for Raj Caruth? Because he got trapped in the middle and it didn't work out for him. What lesson did he maybe learn there to put him in a better position to go out and win this thing?
Well, I think he's learned a little bit, perhaps, about who's likely to work with him and who is not under these circumstances. He got taken advantage of a little bit by a couple of teammates in Brown and Schildhouse that teamed up and kind of left him all by himself in the middle.
James, you've been around for all 3 seasons of Monday Night Racing. Put into perspective the relief you will feel if you're a playoff driver and you win and you go to next week knowing it does not matter, I'm already into the round of 7.
I think with the way this schedule sets up, that's a particularly pertinent point if you're not a great road course racer. There are people, Brad Perez we talked about, but a few others in this mix as well, who are absolutely licking their chops at the prospect of going to run the Porsche 911 RSRs at Homestead, Miami. But there are other people who do not feel like they have strength on the road courses at all. And if you can win your way in tonight and not have to worry about your road course performance, since it's also the last road course of Season 3 of Monday Night Racing, you will feel like you dodged a tremendous bullet, because then you could just focus on your oval performances and get tuned up for the 1987s at Darlington, which will be the next oval race we run after this. So it could be very, very big depending on who is in there. Raja Caruth, I think, is one who desperately could use the win. He's a self-proclaimed oval guy, not necessarily one who loves the road courses. He would really benefit from not having to worry about winning or finishing well, for that matter, next week down in Miami.
No matter how good a road course racer you may be, you will take the money in the bank here tonight and be very happy to have it. If you're in that top 7 or 8 right now, you feel like you've got a golden opportunity on your doorstep right now to win this race, lock yourself into the next round, and not have to worry about it.
One of the first things said in our pre-race coverage tonight, this is the wild card round of the playoffs. You got Talladega, you have a road course, and we know how unpredictable both of those types of venues can be. Any road course brings a lot of things into play that really can be out of your control, whether it's strategy or just one late race problem. And with so many vehicles on the lead lap, you just can't get that track position back. Same thing here at Talladega. It's a wild card because, one, you can get an upset winner, and number 2, you get involved in a crash and you can be knocked out of contention and lose a ton of points. There is little doubt if you can win here tonight. It's not just big for your resume because you've won at Talladega. It's huge for the playoff side of things because you know you're locked into the round of 7 and you can breathe easy going to Miami next week.
All right, you asked me the last time, so I'll turn the tables. What are the odds we go green to checkers without another stoppage?
I'm going to say we get at least another green-white checker after this. I have a hard time believing that they play nice. And keeping in mind, and James, ran the rules down a moment ago, but you just have to get back to the white flag. Once the leader gets back to the white, the next flag is going to end it. It's my understanding, though, that Monday Night Racing, you're going to stay green on that final lap, right? I mean, that's once they take the white, we're pretty much at that point know we're going to stay green. Is that right, James?
You thought you've seen some wild stuff in real life. If we get that situation where we get the white flag and we're racing back to the finish, there may be 2 or 3 different wrecks we see within that last lap that determine who ends up winning this race. So it'll be much like what we saw in the Firecracker 400 that Landon Castle and Parker Kligerman hosted back in July, where there were about 3 or 4 different wrecks on the last restart that allowed Michael Cozy Jr. to get the victory. And oh, by the way, speaking of Firecracker 400, the man who led that broadcast, David Schildhouse, also your race leader coming to this restart.
Hey, and I think I'm counting here that we've got 8 playoff drivers, 8 of our 10 playoff drivers inside the top 15 for this restart. And someone else I want to give a nod to is Matt Stolnick. He's restarting 7th here. He was able to win at Daytona in an Xfinity car on Monday Night Racing. So when you talk about drivers that are good in a draft, I mean, he's had everything thrown at him tonight, but to be in position and have the experience of winning, that's big for the man that knows marketing at NASCAR and is pretty good when it comes to driving a vehicle on Monday Night Racing.
There's a definite skill set to running these super speedways, knowing how the aerodynamics work, knowing how to make your car better by moving a little to the left or a little to the right, make the guy alongside you a little bit worse by moving a little to the left or a little to the right. It's an acquired taste. Some people never figure it out. Some people take to it immediately like ducks to water. And we're going to see who's got the best combination here as we get down to the green flag again.
I'm looking at the front row for the restart. You got Shieldhouse up there with Brandon Brown. Raj Caruth going to restart in row 2. You got Garrett Smithley up there. Will Rogers, who was really good pushing. Anthony Alfredo is in that mix. We mentioned Matt Stallneck, one of our championship contenders, will restart inside the top 10 as we get a green-white checker here at Talladega, trying to decide things in the Sim Seats 200. It's the opening race in the round of 10 Monday Night Racing, and after next week, 7 drivers moving on to the round of 7, eventually crowning a champion for season 3 later this fall.
Shieldhouse on the inside, Brown on the outside. The two teammates would probably rather be nose to tail, no matter who's up front and who's behind. And that may work out if Brown can get a jump on the outside, come down across the nose of his teammate, they could be hooked up once again and ready to draft as the field comes toward the tri-oval, looking for a little bit of a green flag.
Everyone on pins and needles right now. It's a green-white checker. Podium Esports bringing it to you from the virtual Talladega Super Speedway. Shieldhouse and Brown on the front row. And we're racing once again at virtual Talladega Super Speedway.
Here they go, headed down into turn number 1, and it's going to be side by side. Brown was not able to get the jump in the outside lane. He also isn't getting a lot of drafting help right at this moment by Raj Caruth. Caruth now arrives on his front bumper, but not until Brown drops back all the way to P5.
Garrett Smithley up to second. He's pushing Shieldhouse, but these are two drivers that want to win this race because they're championship eligible, and a win tonight would lock them in to the round of 7. Stallneck is there in the 41. You got Will Rogers in the 55. Brandon Brown trying to rally in that outside lane. We're heading to the tri-oval, and when they get to the end of the tri-oval, they'll see the white flag indicating 1 lap to go.
Brandon Brown got shuffled to that 3-wide line, and he is back well outside the top 10. His hopes for victory lane just about disappeared. White flag is out. Never would have believed it. We're going to finish this race next time by, and now the question is, who's going to get to the checkered flag first?
Will Rogers scored the race leader, but he has contact with Stallneck. He saves it. That opens the door for Shieldhouse to take over the race lead. Here comes Raj Caruth in the outside lane. They're crashing behind him. We'll stay green for now. Shieldhouse trying to block the competition. He gets sideways and hits the wall. They're wrecking everywhere at Talladega. Anybody's guess who's going to win this thing. The focus now goes to Gabe Wood, but he has contact.
Somebody's going to have to drive through the minefield and find their way back to the checkered flag. It's not going to be Raj Caruth. He's torn to bits. We're just going to have to wait and see who can find their way through this mess.
It's going to be a guessing game to see who wins the Sim Seats 200. The checker is out. Here they come, and at the line, I'm going to say I'm not sure at this point. Give it to Stephen Ellis from Toronto, Ontario. Stephen Ellis, who reports hockey news for a living, has won the Sim Seats 200 in Talladega, and that beats everything.
Started 27th, took the white flag in about 48th place, and somehow found a way through the round. Look at that truck. There's not a mark on it, and I don't know how.
The over-under of how many trucks would be involved in that last crash, I'm not sure what it was set at, but we got the over for sure. And we said things would get wild, and boy, did he do a nice job of avoiding contact.
Drove right through the middle of it, found himself, let's go on board with, here's Ellis. Let's see how many spinning trucks. Okay, he missed them all. He missed every single truck. How did he win that race?
That is incredible. I'm not sure that we said Stephen's name all night long, but the Canadian comes to Talladega and is able to win the race. And here's the big question. How does everything sort out behind him? And what does this do to the championship chase because and here we see the numbers. So going to next week, it's going to be Adam Cabot who is leading at plus 23. And you see below the cut line is going to be Brad Perez, Ford Martin involved in that crash. He's 7 behind, and also Robbie Lyons. So those are the drivers that will go to Miami next week and have to perform when it comes to the playoffs. Congratulations, though, to Stephen Ellis. He miraculously wins this race at Talladega.
At the start of the evening, it would have been very difficult to give us any scenario for the finish that we would not have believed. I don't believe that one. That was pretty incredible.
Well, and I really thought the biggest question was going to be when we got the white flag is who wins this? Is it someone who's no longer involved in the championship that plays the role of spoiler? Or is it someone who does the heroic thing, goes out and wins and locks themselves into the round of 7? And as it turns out, it's a non-playoff driver that wins it. But I never would have predicted it was going to be Stephen Ellis.
I need to see this again to see how Ellis got back to the line first, because to say that he was in the middle of the melee would be a dramatic understatement. He didn't get through it unscathed. He made some pretty severe contact in the middle of that mess, but not enough to whoa him up to the point where he couldn't get back to the start-finish line first.
So here we are coming back to the white flag, right? And he just riding in line, biding his time, and he's probably thinking right about here, boy, it'd be nice if I could sneak up there and get a top 10 finish, right? He had no idea what was about to unfold in front of him.
Well, it's a testimonial to how quickly things can change here at Talladega Super Speedway, because you're right, he's back there running about, 17th, 18th, 20th place, thinking, okay, I'll get myself a decent finish tonight, and we'll go on to the next one. There's not a chance in the world that he is thinking, I'm going to win this race right now.
You know, and we were a half a lap, Dave, from coming back unscathed.
Yeah, but
this is where it happened.
Yeah, half a lap's a long way at Talladega, that's for sure. And this is where it comes unglued, and we'll see how Ellis. No, I guess we got another lap to go because we passed the scene of the crime already.
Right. So we were back, and this, I believe we're coming to 1 to go here is what we have.
Well, it was a phenomenal finish, to say the least. If with a lap to go you had the eventual winner on your scorecard, you probably tore it up and threw it away thinking you didn't have a chance in the world.
Well, this was fun. I got to say, as we continue to watch how this thing played out, and now I think you can start to see the wreck beginning as they come off turn 2. This is when things got dicey out in front of Ellis on the final lap. And you can see he's already starting to back out of it a little bit, right? I mean, you can see the pace is slowing down.
And now we're going to find out why, because it's going to get really ugly here in a minute.
And actually, I think this is.
I think we're going
lap 55.
We're going to run the final 5 laps here. I think is what's going to happen. Let's try this again. And you can see again, Ellis is back there, probably, maybe in the top 20 at this juncture, maybe, but not a whole lot better than that.
Oh, we saw one truck
drove under one
above the catch fence there. They're like 8 wide at this point, all over the racetrack.
Well, he really did a great job, didn't he? I mean, he did he center punched one of them, but not enough to keep him from getting home.
Well, what was amazing is the momentum that he continued here around these drivers. You would have thought after the contact that he had with Brad Perez, he wouldn't have had any shot of getting back, but he does, and as you said, his truck looks to be in pretty good shape.
He'll take it for sure. To come from where he came from with a half a lap to go and be the first man under the checkerboard tonight, that's a pretty phenomenal achievement.
Well, a great job for Stephen Ellis, who's able to get the win. A very unpredictable night, as they always are at Talladega Super Speedway. Max Kennan with a really good effort to come home second. Adam Cabot ends up third. We mentioned the fact that he's got a really good points position going down to the Homestead Miami Speedway next weekend. Gabe Wood, who was up front a good portion of the night, finishes 4th. Jason Kepfer was in the top 5. Mike Clay, who had a good strategy play in this race, gets a top 10 out of the deal. And so does Brett Baldack. Congratulations to him, the reporter from Fox 46.
You know, it's amazing. All of those championship contender guys that were all in the top 10 or 12 with the final restart ready to go, Can't find any of them. I mean, they're all down there 15th, 20th, 14th. It's amazing how quickly their fortunes turn.
They will have a tough time sleeping tonight, thinking about what might have been. You saw many of them on that last page. Here's a couple of more here. You got Stallneck there, Garrett Smithley, both outside the top 20.
What happened to my boy Ford Martin?
Yeah,
He's doing
Brad
so well there
Perez,
for a
Ford
minute.
Martin, Robbie Lyons. I mean, the list goes on. Brandon Brown, who restarts on the front row, ends up 28th. And, Shane Van Gisbergen, who led laps tonight, was deep in the field. Ryan Vargas, Jeff Green. This is what it's all about, and we're going to get some post-race reaction now. We start with Ron Capps.
Capps, your thoughts on a fairly tumultuous final lap or so?
Only you could put it like that. Pretty cool. I was in a room, my in-car audio, and I could hear you and Adam, and it was pretty cool. Like, we're driving around, there's a wreck about to happen, and you're like, drive through the smoke, Cole, and I hear both guys going nuts, and I'm going nuts at the same time, and just so much fun, man. Just so much fun. So thank you, Adam. Thank you, Godfather, for being a part of it. This is a great night, man. We looked forward to it, but you guys made it even better.
A lot of fun. Thanks,
it was
buddy.
fun.
Good to
Yeah,
hear from you.
thanks. And hey, the truck does look great, by the way. All right.
It does.
Didn't have much to work with either.
I'm telling you, we're going to roll into Charlotte at Z-Max, and I'm going to work on getting you on the hood.
I'm rooting for it. At 300 miles an hour, Dave's hair will be grayer then than it is now.
Sure, we can just pull that sponsor logo off the hood and put my face on there. Don Schumacher won't mind that even a little bit, I'm sure.
Nope. Fans will love it.
Oh.
Hey, great job tonight. We enjoyed it, Ron, and thanks for being our in-race reporter.
Yeah, man. Good times. Thanks, guys.
All right. It's been great to watch him through the virtual world come over and race all different types of vehicles, hasn't it?
He's the same in the virtual world as he is in the real world. He will race anything. Asphalt, dirt, 4 wheels, 2 wheels, fenders or no fenders, day or night. He's just ready to go racing.
Now let's check in with Stephen Ellis, who wins this race. And Stephen, we thank you for joining us on our post-race coverage and congratulate you on one of the most improbable victories. Take us through that final lap.
I was damaged, kind of a couple laps earlier. I took some damage off of one of the cautions, and I just knew at the back, if I could just hold off there, maybe at best I get a top 10. But then it was kind of just at that point, seeing everybody crash, it's like I don't know where I'm going. It just go full speed, just let's see what happens. And it almost felt kind of like the 2012 Xfinity Daytona finish there. So that was probably one of the craziest finishes I've ever been a part of, that's for sure.
So you're telling us that coming off turn 2 on the final lap, you weren't thinking win?
When I'm 28th place, yeah, I could say I didn't expect to win in the final lap, but that was really cool. That just the race was fantastic from start to finish. It was a lot of fun, and I ran up front for a little bit, but the idea was just kind of stay at the back, and unfortunately I got some damage late. Thought it was over, and apparently not.
You racing in Toronto tonight? You at home in Canada, Stephen?
Yeah, I believe I'm the only Canadian guy here. Maybe that's I guess that was pretty cool. So I had a lot of fans there, a lot of friends watching this one. That was pretty cool.
I know you cover hockey and also a Pinty Series photographer. Real quick before we let you go, your favorite racetrack north of the border is?
I'm going to go with Jacassa Motor Speedway. Outstanding facility. Everyone's got to get there at some point.
Awesome. Hey, Stephen, awesome to watch you win this race tonight. Congratulations on that. Thanks for being with us, and have fun. We'll see you down the road.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for joining us, guys.
All right, you got it.
Good stuff. Jacassa Motor Speedway, formerly known as Cayuga Speedway. The place was shuttered, closed, not quite gone, but not a lot of people had a lot of hope for it. New ownership went in there, spent a ton of money rebuilding, sprucing the place up. It is an absolute showcase up there in Ontario.
Racing in Canada is awesome. We went to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park so many times with the Camping World Truck Series, and they do an unbelievable job up there, and always enjoy it. And the fans, truly outstanding. Max Kennan is with us now. And Max, I know you weren't up front all night long, but you end up with an unbelievable finish. That final lap from your perspective, how did it look?
Well, my strategy the whole race was to stay out of the wreck, stay at the back, and it was working to plan. And then that second to last restart came, got hung on the outside, and was back in 22nd. And we took the white and went off into 2, and I didn't lift. And I I don't know how I saved it when Raj clipped me in the right rear. It was amazing. I don't even know what. It's incredible.
They say that it's better to be lucky than good, but sometimes it helps to be both. Maybe equal doses of that on the final lap tonight?
Oh, absolutely. I have no clue. I mean, I wish, that's every racer's problem is you run a race back in your head 1,000 times and just thinking about what would have happened if I had known and got up there and blocked Steven when you came around. But it's a good thing for the playoffs, finished in second. Good thing for the next round, so I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask you. Just a quick thought about next week running the Porsches at the Homestead Miami Speedway on the road course. What do you think there? You'll have a nice little advantage after finishing second tonight.
And I'm going to need it because I am not a good road racer at all. But those Porsches are good to drive. They're fun to drive. They're just not my suit there.
Well, you've got a 23-point advantage over the cut. You helped yourself tonight. Nice job running second, and all the best as we head to South Florida next weekend virtually, and you try to advance the round of 7. Thanks, Max.
Thank you guys so much.
Max Kennan, mechanic for Kyle Busch Motorsports, and making KBM proud tonight.
Yes, indeed. Dodged a few bullets coming through that wreck, too, didn't he?
He did.
A couple across the nose, a couple across the tail, but he came through clean.
So Max Kennan finishes second, and as we said, he'll be plus 23 going to next week. He's tied at the top with Adam Cabot, who also has that 23-point advantage over the cut line. And I believe Adam is with us now. James, you do the honors on this one.
Adam Cabot, you had yourself a run there at the end of all that mess. Just take us through weaving your way through everything that happened on that last lap and how you managed to snag third out of all this.
My God, I've never wished so bad before that I had a recording of my own reaction to something as I did for that last lap there. It felt like it was slow motion. I was just dodging cars for eternity, that whole last lap there. And then the smoke clears, and I just yelled at my spotter. I'm like, is that the leader right in front of me? I genuinely couldn't believe that I was up in the top 5 there and ended up coming home third. I mean, I was just out there trying to survive tonight. That was my strategy all race. I was just hanging out in the back, which I've never done before for one of these plate races, but I've been in enough of them to know that it's a really smart strategy if you're out there going for points. And with this just being a 2-race round, with Miami being next week, I knew that I had to I knew I had to at least survive tonight. I couldn't end up coming home 30th or wrecked back down the deep 20s. So just trying to survive, and I was so bummed I got put top 3 wide with 2 to go and just started dropping back like a rock. I was in 10th and I was in 12th, and all of a sudden I'm back to 20th in the last lap in the middle 3 wide, and I'm like, well, this isn't going to end well. And I don't know, luck, skill, a little bit of both, but I have, they just all were crashing around me, and it just seemed like it never ended.
Now, most of the drivers in Monday Night Racing have a lot of real-world ties to the industry. You're one of the few drivers that comes into this league primarily from the sim racing side of things via your Esports Racing League championship back in the spring. So you've got a little bit more experience running the plate tracks in sim than most of the drivers in this field. How much did that experience help you set your mindset correctly and put yourself in the right places to get to this P3 tonight?
Yeah, I think it did. It took about, it took about 10 years of me running these races to finally get smart enough to realize that as much fun as it is to duke it out up front at the beginning of the race, it's just, like I said, if you're going for points, it's just not smart. So I think it really helped me, know to hang back towards the beginning, because these things never tend to go green at these tracks here. So, that and just the experience of trying to put less fuel in the car towards the end. I mean, I'll give my spotter and crew chief Bailey Turner credit for that decision, to put less fuel in the end to kind of try to leapfrog some of the cars, and he got me up to 5th with that strategy. But then, like I said, I just got shuffled out and was really destined to have a pretty terrible finish. And sometimes you get really unlucky in racing, and sometimes you get really lucky. And that was I'm not gonna I can only take so much credit for that last lap. That was mostly just luck right there.
You come in with the same buffer that Max Kennan has going into Miami next week, 23 points about the cutoff line. But I have a hunch you might be a little bit more confident than he was about his abilities to get the job done there. So what are your thoughts on what we can expect out of you in a Porsche 911 RSR in South Florida next Monday night?
Yeah, I'm thrilled having this big of a points buffer going into the next week. I don't know how I'll do stacked up to everyone else, but on road courses, I've seemed to have between 5th and 10th place speed. Road America, I was actually one of the quicker cars, which was surprising. So even if worst case scenario, I'm maybe 10th or so on speed, I think that should be enough to get me to transfer. I haven't looked at the standings, but I'm guessing, a lot of playoff guys were caught up in that wreck and dropped back. So yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. That'll be, even though it's pretty foreign to me being in a Porsche sports car, I've never driven that track before. I don't have a single lap on it yet. I'm still more confident going into there than I was tonight because I think that last lap showed you that anything can happen at Talladega.
Well, Adam, congratulations on your podium finish. Thanks as always for the time, and we'll see you down in South Florida next Monday night.
All right, thanks. Sounds good.
And 2 more points, David and Adam, before I take off and let you all close this out. Max Kennan, we talked about his points buffer. It was a huge leap that he had in that incident. Just off of my quick math, I don't know if any playoff driver benefited more from the madness on that last lap than Max. I think he was somewhere in the ballpark of maybe 7 or 8 points above the cutoff line when they took the white flag, jumped up to plus 23 in that last lap of the race. So he's got a huge buffer and should be in good shape to make the round of 7. On the flip side of that, Brad Perez was up near the front. He almost had the rack on the back straightaway cleared on the outside and nearly got a top 5 finish out of this and ended up getting swept up in this finish back in 25th. And for a man who says he's going to be disappointed if he doesn't win next week at Homestead Miami, at being his home track, he'll need to. He's 3 points south of the cutoff line, so he has to have a big week next week in order to make it into the round of 7.
Yeah, there was a lot of give and take tonight. No doubt about that, James, when you talk about the points. And there you see the rundown as we head to the Homestead Miami Speedway next weekend. Garrett Smithley winning the first 2 races in the playoffs. That got him into the round of 10. Stephen Ellis, not championship eligible, wins tonight at Talladega Superspeedway. Next Monday on the road course at Miami with those Porsche 911s. That will set the round of 7. We go to Darlington and Auto Club Speedway in the round of 7 before deciding a champion with these very trucks at the Homestead Miami Speedway. Dave, your final thoughts tonight as we open up the round of 10 at Talladega.
Well, you come to Talladega expecting the unexpected. A final lap like we saw tonight might have been a little bit even above the pale, but it's always entertaining. It's always exciting. It's always unpredictable. That's why they buy the tickets to go to Talladega.
We got a great group at Podium Esports, and we thank them for all they do, including our producer Ryan Bauer, James Pike doing a nice job getting us on the air tonight and providing so much good insight about all the competitors with Dave Moody and our entire broadcast crew here at Podium Esports. I'm Adam Alexander. Thank you for watching, and congratulations to Stephen Ellis. He wins the SimSeats 200 at the virtual Talladega Superspeedway.